Chapter 246. In the past, nothing happened to the Feng family, but now it seemed that things were slowly being settled one by one. If one knew a little, they would definitely know what went wrong. Those who didn't know would think that the Feng family was unlucky. Of course, it was unlucky. This was just a small matter. Muzillion hit the nail on the head. Mu Xiangshan and Mu Zhenming looked at each other and didn't speak. Xiao Fei knew some things about the Feng family, plus last time it was Feng Yingbai who brought her daughter there for no reason. She really didn't have a good impression of him. Hearing this, she curled her lips. If you know something is going to happen, you shouldn't do anything illegal. The son is not a good thing, and as expected, the old is not much better. Xiao Fei was naive and sweet, but she wasn't ignorant. She still knew the good and the bad. Feng Yibing was taught like that, so she had long felt that Feng Yingbai's family was not good. Mu Xiangshan glared at her. If Feng Yingbai didn't go in, you wouldn't say this, right? There are some things we can't say now. They had to wait until the Feng family was completely finished. Just Feng Yingbai alone couldn't make any waves in the Feng family. Muzillion. In fact, I still think Feng Fei he is the strangest. She was paralyzed in the car accident last time, but in a few days, she acted like nothing happened. It's like she's been possessed. Mu Xiangshan snorted. How can there be such a ridiculous thing? It's just that the news was spread very strictly, but in fact, nothing happened. Mu Xiangshan came back later, so he wasn't very clear about the car accident. Muzichu suddenly said, I saw it with my own eyes. He pursed his thin lips, glanced at Xiao Jin without a trace, and then looked at his parents. She was lying in bed at the time, unable to move her whole body. She couldn't even say a word. I saw it with my own eyes. Not saying it didn't mean they didn't doubt it. Feng Fei's matter was really strange. Because of the Feng family's power, they didn't dare to say it. How could they care about other people's private thoughts? A person who was paralyzed on the bed seemed to be completely fine in just a few days. What kind of amazing medical treatment was involved? Mu Zhenming and the others didn't care too much about this matter, because they wouldn't think of something extremely inhuman in their bones. They said, maybe it just looks serious, but in fact, it's a small injury. However, since Feng Fei's car accident, the Feng family has been a little. After a pause, Mu Zhenming continued, but this is not what we are worried about. The main thing is that we have some businesses that are suitable for Feng Yong. If something happens to the Feng family, he frowned and found it hard to say. This couldn't be said to add insult to injury. The Feng family was very strange now. If something really happened, the Mu family, who cooperated with Feng Yongshi, might be implicated. However, it wasn't time to worry about this. The next day, Feng Yongshi and his wife came. This time, they came to find Mu Xiangshan. Muzillion and Muzichu both went to school. Xiao Jin stayed in the room because the class was in the afternoon. He clearly heard them discussing Feng Fei and Muzichu in the living room. That's right, they wanted Muzichu and Feng Fei to unite by marriage. The main thing was that Feng Fei's parents proposed this condition. They didn't look for Mu Zhenming. Instead, they hoped that Mu Xiangshan could stand up and preside over this matter. Mu Xiangshan didn't know Feng Fei, but he also knew that it was best for the young people to talk about their grandchildren's matters. With his current status in this family, Chapter 247. Young people's affairs should be decided by the young people. Mu Xiangshan's voice was leisurely. It was obvious that he wanted to kick this matter out. Besides, Muzichu's affairs have always been decided by his father. You should look for Zhenming. Feng Yongshi's expression turned ferocious, but it was only for a moment. He smiled apologetically and said, Of course we will discuss it with Zhenming, but you are still alive. You should be the one to decide this matter. My Feihe and Chi-Chu are in love, and the two families have known each other for so many years. In love? Xiao Jin came down and said this. She stood at the stairs and seemed a little amused. Why haven't I heard Chi-Chu say that he and Feng Fei are in love? Feng Yongshi and Xie Jihua's expressions stiffened when they saw Xiao Jin. In their eyes, this girl was not to be trifled with. Last time, Feng Yingbai provoked her and even got into trouble now. What's more, Song Yanqing personally want to pick her up. She had Song Yanqing behind her. No matter how rude Feng Yongshi was, he couldn't be rude to her like before. He was just suspicious in his heart. It's fine to call Muzichu's name, But what does the engagement have to do with you? He thought so in his heart, but he didn't dare to show it on his face. He only twitched his cheek and said, Chi-Chu's face is cold, so he doesn't often come home to talk about this. Xiao Jin walked downstairs step by step. What era is it that we still rely on parents' orders and matchmakers' words? Why don't you ask Chi-Chu's opinion directly? It's useless to ask the old man. If Musichu agreed, they wouldn't have come directly. However, Feng Yongshi was a little anxious. Now the Feng family was a little turbulent. One incident after another had made the family panic. Even the children of the Feng family began to act in a low-key manner recently. Feng Yongshi was just an unvalued member of the Feng family. In order to stabilize his position, of course, he had to marry the Mu family. Feng Fei he had been in love with Musichu for a long time, so marriage was a normal thing. As for whether Musichu liked Feng Fei he or not, it was not within their consideration at all. If Mu Jiming had the heart, he would know that Feng Fei he was only able to marry Musichu because the Mu family was out of their league. When Feng Yongshi heard Xiao Jin being so aggressive, he was a little unhappy. Children shouldn't interfere in our adult affairs, right? This is your brother's business. It has nothing to do with you. Of course not, but shouldn't this matter have something to do with Chi-Chu? Why didn't he inform him of his marriage? I'll call Chi-Chu right now. If you have anything to say, why don't we talk it out together? Feng Yongshi saw Xiao Jin take out his phone and was about to make a call. His anger stagnated. You, let her hit you. Xie Zhihua tugged at her husband's sleeve and glared at Xiao Jin. Even if he made the call, he and Feihe can only get married. These words caused Mu Xiangshan to immediately pull a long face, his voice stern. What do you mean by that? I'm still here. Where do you think this is? Do you think this is your Feng family? Mu Xiangshan rarely lost his temper, which made Feng Yongshi and Xie Zhihua restrain themselves a little. No matter how they were the Feng family, they were not part of the power center. Feng Yingbai's attitude towards Xiao Jin not long ago was retribution today. Many people suspected that the Song family was involved in this. Xie Zhihua was embarrassed and didn't dare to be unreasonable. Old Master Mu, I didn't mean it. Please don't mind. Xiao Jin sneered. Chapter 248. She still made the call. She called Musichu. Not long ago, she saved the phone numbers of everyone in the Mu family in her phone. Musichu quickly answered the call. After realizing that it was Xiao Jin, he was a little surprised. What's the matter? Xiao Jin said directly. Chi-Chu, Feng Fei He's parents came to our house and said that they wanted to talk about your marriage with Feng Fei He. Feng Yongshi and Xie Zhihua saw that she was so direct, and their faces were a little stiff. Xiao Jin turned on the speakerphone, and Musichu's voice came clearly from the other side. Marriage? Who wants to marry her? It was cold and cheerless, without the slightest bit of emotion, and there was a hint of obvious disgust. Not to mention that Feng Fei He had an accident. Even before the accident, he didn't like Feng Fei He. The reason why the two people had a little contact was because of family reasons. Feng Fei He always came up. Musilian didn't like her and didn't want to talk to her. Musichu only had contact with her to maintain the basic courtesy. He didn't know what Feng Fei He misunderstood. Musichu's ruthless words still made Xie Zhihua and Feng Yongshi's faces ugly. Xiao Jin said with a smile, You? Musichu. Not interested. Xie Zhihua couldn't help but scream. You are old enough. The marriage between the two families will only bring benefits to your family. What are you unwilling to do? My Feihe is talented and beautiful. How is she not worthy of you? He didn't want to get married because he disliked Feng Fei He. No one would feel good if their excellent daughter was disliked. Especially in Xie Zhihua's heart, the Mu family being able to marry the Feng Fei He was already considered a social climber. How could they refuse a family that was not as good as the Feng family? Musichu said calmly, Auntie, what era are we in now? A marriage alliance should at least consider mutual feelings. I just don't like your daughter. It's that simple. If you want a marriage alliance, you can find someone else. I'm not worthy of your daughter. After that, he turned to Xiao Jin and said, Is there anything else? If not, I'm hanging up. I'm in class. Xiao Jin. No. Musichu hung up the phone. Feng Yongshi and Xie Zhihua's faces turned even uglier. Mu Xiangshan also sighed. Sigh. In this day and age, The children make their own decisions. We are old. How can we care about what others think? Feng Yongshi couldn't keep his face straight anymore. What do young people know? I will discuss it with Zhenming. The marriage is beneficial to both of us. I hope that you will consider it carefully. We won't disturb you anymore. Mu Xiangshan waved his hand. Butler, see the guest out? He didn't have the slightest intention of asking him to stay. The expressions of the two of them were ugly, but they didn't dare to get angry in front of Mu Xiangshan. They could only hold their breath and leave. After they left, Mu Xiangshan snorted coldly, still putting on airs in front of the Mu family. How important do you think you are in the Feng family? Mu Xiangshan also knew that the Feng family was a cruel place. Excluding the fact that Feng Yongshi was a child of the Feng family, it was useless if he wasn't from the Feng family. Feng Yongshi could borrow the power of the Feng family, but that was only because his surname was Feng. Xiao Jin said, "Why do they want a marriage alliance with Qi Chu at this time? Something must have gone wrong somewhere." Mu Xiangshan thought for a while. He hadn't cared about business for a long time, so he wasn't clear about some things. "I need to investigate it. Zhenming may know. I'll talk about it when he comes back tonight." Before he finished speaking, he looked at Xiao Jin. "Aren't you going to class? You are everywhere." He was quite disgusted. Chapter 249. There are only classes in the afternoon. Did you forget that you didn't go to university? Sole question. Mu Xiangshan. Mu Xiangshan glared at her. "Enough. You can't be serious all day." He snorted coldly, flicked his sleeves, and left. Xiao Jin smirked and returned to the bedroom upstairs. When Xiao Jin came back in the evening, Muzillian was sitting on the sofa with a look of watching a good show. Xiao Fei said something to Mu Zhenming anxiously, "But you can't let Qi Chu marry her. I don't like her." Mother's dislike was so direct. After Xiao Fei finished speaking, she said to Muzichu sitting opposite, "Qi Chu also doesn't like her, right?" Muzichu nodded. Xiao Jin understood the topic they were discussing at once. Seeing her come back, everyone just simply greeted her. They were not in the mood to chat with Xiao Jin now. Mu Zhenming sat next to Xiao Fei. His expression was a bit deep, but he didn't seem to be embarrassed. He just sighed softly. Feng Yongshi mentioned this before, but at that time, he just said it casually. Now he is starting to be anxious. Indeed, with the identity of the Feng family, Feng Fei he seemed to be a better match. But there were only so many outstanding children in the capital. There were very few people with good looks and IQ. Muzichu was already a rare rich second generation. Who else could Feng Fei he be thinking of? Unfortunately, they had been dreaming too much all this time. Muzillian said happily, "AI, the Feng family just had a small incident recently. Why do I see their attitude now as if they are anxious to have a marriage alliance? The benefits of having a marriage alliance with our family are just like that. How will it affect them?" Anyway, it was not him who was going to have a marriage alliance, so Muzillian didn't panic at all. The points he raised were also the thoughts of Mu Zhenming and Mu Xiangshan. Mu Xiangshan heard the words and looked at Mu Zhenming. "Is there turmoil in the Feng family?" Mu Zhenming shook his head. "I haven't heard of any great upheavals for the time being. Feng Yingbai's accident could only be considered a small matter. Feng family's core bloodline had no problems at all, so Mu Zhenming couldn't understand why Feng Yongshi was so impatient. With the Feng family's power, the current problems would be resolved very quickly. Xiao Fei was still a little worried. Then Qi Chu doesn't really need to marry that Feng Fei he, right? Mu Zhenming shook his head. If Qi Chu is unwilling, no one can force him. It could be seen that he was a very sensible father. Xiao Jin then said faintly, "Feng Fei he is a hot potato. Not only can we not have her, we also have to make sure that Qi Chu doesn't come into contact with her anymore." As soon as she said this, everyone looked at her in silence and confusion. Mu Zhenming caught the key words of Xiao Jin. Hot potato? He thought about it and interpreted Xiao Jin's meaning from another perspective. She's not a hot potato for the time being. Feng family only has a small problem now, and this problem does not lie in Feng Yongshi's bloodline. Feng Fei he is not a hot potato. He only thought that Xiao Jin was saying that the Feng family was in turmoil now, and Feng Fei he had become a hot potato. In fact, in terms of identity, she was still the young miss of the Feng family, and she was still high and mighty. Xiao Jin raised the corners of her lips and smiled faintly. Feng Fei he didn't die in the car accident last time. How can there be such a good thing in this world? She did something she shouldn't have done, so she will definitely pay the price. People who get close to her will naturally be unlucky, so I advised Chi Chu to stay away from her. As soon as this was said, everyone in the room was a little stunned. Muzillion was even more straightforward. What's wrong? Did the fortune-telling go crazy? Chapter 250. There's nothing she shouldn't have done. Her car accident wasn't a big deal to begin with. Xiao Fei and the rest didn't believe her. Jean, don't talk about this all the time. You don't sound like a decent person. Xiao Jean, I'm very decent. Mu Jinming listened to Xiao Jean and narrowed his eyes. You're saying that Feng Fei he didn't die in the car accident because she paid a price? Normal people would be suspicious if they heard this, but Mu Jinming had always felt that Xiao Jean wasn't normal. He was very mysterious. Now that he heard her say this, he vaguely felt that there was something more to it. It was just that normal people found it hard to believe. Xiao Jean nodded. Mu Xiangshan sneered. Listen to her boasting. Didn't you say that her brain was damaged after she came back from the hospital? What kind of price in this world could bring someone back from the dead? How can there be such a ridiculous thing? It's just a normal car accident. You're cursing her as if she was really dying. Whether he was dead or not, in fact, everyone had a conclusion in their hearts. There were so many people watching. There were many people who went to the hospital to see Feng Fei he. They all knew that she was lying in the hospital and was close to being paralyzed. After a few days, she was completely fine. Some people just couldn't believe it, while others probably knew something but didn't dare to say it. Xiao Fei heard Mu Xiangshan say that Xiao Jin's brain was damaged. He couldn't help but blush. Jean has recovered a long time ago. The doctor said that there's nothing wrong with her now. Mu Xiangshan. Some brain problems can't be detected by the doctor. Xiao Fei. Muzillion whispered to Muzichu. Grandpa is always like a troll. Mu Xiangshan. I can hear you. Useless grandson. Mu Jinming stepped out to smooth things over. He looked at Xiao Jin and said, What you said is too mysterious. Let's not talk about this for now. I won't agree to the matter between Feng Fei he and your brother. How could these men, who had been in the business world for a long time, not see Feng Fei he's character? He did not want to have such a daughter-in-law. Listening to their discussion, Xiao Jin just nodded. She didn't care about the rest and went upstairs. Taking out his phone to check Weibo, Xiao Jin finally noticed that the fortune teller had challenged him to a duel. However, some time had passed, and the other party's fans had already thought that Xiao Jin was a fake shop owner, but they didn't dare to stir up trouble under her Weibo. They just mixed in with sarcasm. After all, her sentence about retribution coming the faster she scolded was a little scary, not to mention that there were so many apologetic anti-fans below. Xiao Jin raised her eyebrows and entered the Jade Pillar fortune teller Weibo. At this time, a message popped up on WeChat. Song Yanqing. I found something interesting. Do you want to take a look? Xiao Jin immediately switched to WeChat. It was Jin Jinyo. I want to see. Song Yanqing sent a document over. Xiao Jin opened it and saw that it was a packaged photo album. The photos were fine, but the content was the problem. In the photo, Feng Fei he was standing at the entrance of an alley. She was holding a man's arm and getting out of a car. The man looked a little old. He tilted his head slightly, and his mouth was almost pressed against Feng Fei's cheek as he spoke. Feng Fei lowered her head and looked a little shy. From the side view of the photo, she clearly looked a little gloomy. Song Yanqing. This is her sixth uncle. Look at the location. Xiao Jin. Wow. Chapter 251. If this photo was seen by others, they would definitely think that the two people in the photo had a close relationship. They were too close, especially the man's expression. The location of the photo was an old alley that was common in the capital, but the car they were in was quite unobtrusive. On the contrary, it seemed that the alley in front of them had a lot of secrets. Xiao Jin took a look. From her point of view, there was no problem with this alley. She asked Song Yanqing directly, Where's this? Song Yanqing. The place where the Feng family's great ancestor lives. Xiao Jin paused for a moment. Generally speaking, the last situation for an array master who was burdened with evil debts was to be caught by other array masters or know the real hiding place. For this great ancestor to help the Feng family do so many evil things, he should be a person who cherishes his life. In the world of array masters, there were many things that couldn't be touched. For example, borrowing luck, exchanging fate, and substituting life and hiding life. Substituting life was easy to understand. It was to let others die for oneself. As for hiding life, it was more sophisticated. That was to hide one's life on another person. As long as the person hiding life didn't die, he wouldn't die. For a character like the Feng family, Xiao Jin felt that this great ancestor must have made such preparations. Even if he knew that he lived here, it was actually useless. However, it gave Xiao Jin something to do. She was interested, so she asked Song Yanqing, "Are you sure that the great ancestor lives here?" Song Yanqing, after investigating for a while, the Feng family's people come here from time to time. It's not too hidden. After a while, he said again. But no one has seen this great ancestor come out. In other words, no one knows what the great ancestor looks like. Except for Azu, who often appears on the surface. It's Jin Jinyo. I will take some time to take a look. Song Yanqing asked with concern, "Will it affect you in any way?" She told a lot about the Feng family. Song Yanqing knew about the great ancestor's ability. He was worried that Xiao Jin would be affected. It's Jin Jinyo. No. No one in this world could affect her, except for the karma of backlash. Song Yanqing. Okay, I'll help you look into other things. Xiao Jin raised his eyebrows and switched the WeChat interface back to Weibo. He then stared at the eccentric people for a few seconds. Divination PK? Xiao Jin was not too happy about it. The main reason was that this situation was like a university teacher bullying kindergarten children. It was really too much. Scolding her would backfire on him, but he had no desire to PK her. In the end, Xiao Jin closed Weibo. However, before she closed the door, she saw a new private message pop up. "Fanjin, do you need money?" She took a look and confirmed that it was Fanjin's main account. This was her celebrity account. Although she was no longer in the entertainment industry, she still used this account. It was just that she rarely logged in. This time, he suddenly sent a message to Xiao Jin. "You're here for fortune-telling today? Why are you talking about this?" "Fanjin, I came across something strange when I went to the countryside for a charity event. I want you to help me out." "Fanjin, I will pay you. You're here for fortune-telling today? You tell me first. I will collect the money." Fanjin, you type very slowly. "Do you have WeChat? I will add you on WeChat and send you a voice message." Xiao Jin sent his WeChat ID to Fanjin. When Fanjin saw the name and profile picture on WeChat, she thought about life for 3 seconds. Okay, maybe the master still has a girl's heart. However, because of the master's decisiveness and straightforwardness, Fanjin always thought that Xiao Jin was a man. Chapter 252. Fanjin added Xiao Jin's WeChat and told Xiao Jin about the strange incident. She had gone to the countryside to finish an event she had signed in the circle. It was to look after the left-behind children. She had even sponsored a few left-behind children. Before they went there, the people in the town kept losing things. It was not that they were stolen, but they were lost for no reason. However, they would appear in another place every once in a while. Those who lost things remembered clearly that they did not place them randomly. They just disappeared and reappeared for no reason. Most people thought that they had a bad memory when they lost small things. Some of them were suspicious and found a so-called feng shui master, but he could not find anything. "Fanjin, we lost something when we went there, but we found it again. I remember clearly that I put it on the table. It disappeared right under my nose." "Fanjin, I think there is something wrong with the child." "Fanjin, picture Fanjin. That's the kid. She's an orphan. I wanted to sponsor her, but the people in town don't like her. She's living with her relatives. I think there's something wrong with her because every time she appears, even the dogs bark at her." "Fanjin, when I lost something, this child was nearby too." Fanjin's suspicions were not for nothing. Although she was a little nervous, she was not as calm as the average person. She noticed something that the average person did not. Every time the little girl appeared, things would go missing for no reason. Others did not notice it, but she had noticed it after a few days. What was worth thinking about was the picture that Fanjin took. In the picture was a little girl with a slightly distorted body. She was about 5 or 6 years old. It wasn't that the little girl's appearance was distorted, but that the photo itself was distorted, causing her face to be unclear. The only thing that could be seen was that the little girl's clothes were tattered, and there was dirt on her small face. Her pair of big eyes were looking over, and her clear black and white pupils had a kind of naivety to the world. Fanjin. When I took a picture of her with my phone, the screen would flicker. That was what Fanjin felt was wrong about. In a small town, no one would take a picture of a little girl for no reason. She also found out by accident, and then she found that if she took a picture of her, the phone would always have an unusual distortion and flicker, as if it was affected by some kind of magnetic field. She also experimented with Feng Qian'an's phone. However, she did not tell Phoenix Qian'an about this. In the end, it was determined that the little girl had some kind of strange phenomenon that no one knew about. She didn't know any capable people. The only person she could think of was Qiao Jin, who had told her fortune before. Fanjin, is this a natural phenomenon? When she asked, she was actually a little confused because she had never seen it before. Qiao Jin looked at it for a while, and his expression was somewhat excited. It's Jin Jinyo. It's not a natural phenomenon. It's Jin Jinyo. It's not suitable for her to stay there. This little girl was a sorcerer, a naturally awakened spiritualist. As mentioned before, spiritual readers were divided into innate awakenings and postnatal awakenings. Innate awakenings were brought from a very early age or from the womb. Such a pure spiritual reader who had not been tainted by the Rakshasa realm was a good seedling. Moreover, his ability was one of the best among the spiritual readers. This was probably the ability to distort the magnetic field of space. There would be such a loss of control around her, so items would be lost. She was still young, and the older she grew, the stronger her ability would be, which would lead to serious consequences. Chapter 253. Xiao Jian sent He Yao a message and a photo of the little girl. Finally, he asked for Fanjin's address and sent it to He Yao. Of course, this kind of psychic was left to the spirit group to deal with. Xiao Jin didn't have the time. He Yao was surprised and excited that Xiao Jin had found a psychic. She could let the person behind her nurture her. There was a high probability that this little girl would follow them. There was no need to worry about her learning bad things. There were many psychics found all over the country, especially children. Because of this, there were many problems. Because of the psychic's ability, abnormal phenomena could not be explained to ordinary people. After telling He Yao about this, Xiao Jin sent Fanjin a message that someone would come to take the little girl away. Although it was very sudden, this little girl had nothing to do with Fanjin. She vaguely felt that this little girl was unusual, as well as this fortune teller. After a moment of silence, Fanjin sent another message. Fanjin, can I know about this little girl? Anyone who wasn't a fool could guess what was wrong with the little girl. What shocked Fanjin was that it was as if a strange world was gradually unfolding in front of her. She didn't know why she suspected that there was something wrong with this little girl and told Xiao Jin immediately. It's little Jin Jinyo. If there's a day when we meet, I'll tell you. Jan Jin, this world isn't what you think, but it's good to be an ordinary person. The spirit group maintained the normal lives of humans. Ordinary people who lived in the ordinary world wouldn't come into contact with such a vast and strange world. Psychics were powerful, but putting aside this, they were the same as ordinary people. Fanjin seemed to understand something. Back then, when Xiao Jin had told her fortune, this fortune teller was already ridiculously accurate. Now, it seemed that she had met a legendary person with special abilities. It turned out that they really existed. She ended the WeChat chat. This strange thing was actually a psychic. She wouldn't accept money. Xiao Jin looked at Weibo again and decided to go to the alley to take a look. The ancestor was there. She wanted to know who the ancestor was. Most importantly, Feng Fei, he was really ruthless. In order to be reborn, one had to pay the price, even if it was the Feng family. The great ancestor had to pay a price to save her. This price was definitely not something that Feng Fei he could afford. Therefore, she had to pay the most worthwhile price. What was it worth to have such a woman? It was obvious. It was really a family that made people feel uncomfortable from the bottom of their bones. Xiao Jin sighed slightly. Song Yanqing and the other party also had some connections. Phoenix Grace's bloodline seemed to be passable. Otherwise, it would have been good to wipe them all out. She looked at the photo again. This time, she knew how to find the address online. It was a famous street in the imperial capital, full of alleys and old courtyard houses. It was surrounded by tall buildings. Those who lived in such a place were either residents of the old city or wealthy. It was also heavily guarded, so it was indeed a good place to stay. After she found out the location, she left early the next morning. If she went at night, she would probably find an excuse to dance to Feifei again. She took the subway to this place. However, in the subway, there were too many people holding their phones and pretending to take photos of her inadvertently. Chapter 254. It was actually not suitable for her to go out now. It was not an exaggeration to say that she could really cause a little sensation. Being beautiful was one thing. A person with white and delicate skin and long seaweed-like hair seemed to have walked out of an anime. Her whole body seemed to have a halo, and there was a feeling of being in a different world from others. Now it was the information age. If she appeared in such a place, she would definitely attract the attention of others. Even the white-collar workers in the subway who dressed up and wore gorgeous makeup would unconsciously turn their heads when facing Xiao Jin. So beautiful. Where did this fairy come from? Damn, I have never seen a girl with such a good temperament in my life. She actually came to take the subway? I think it is a sin to let her walk on the ground. These words were said by a few excited little girls. They pretended to take selfies, but they were secretly taking photos of Xiao Jin. Xiao Jin didn't care. She sat there, and the crowded morning rush hour abruptly gave her a space. It was already a wonder. Even an uncle sitting on the side squeezed to the sides awkwardly. The gap was enough for another person, but no one dared to sit down. When she arrived at the station, she got up, and the people around her scattered again as if they were afraid of squeezing her. When the iron door opened, a group of people who were about to rush in saw her and subconsciously paused. Then they waited for Xiao Jin to come out. Then they turned their heads and entered the subway in disbelief. They were not particularly excited. Only some people smiled with some amazement. What a classy girl. She is so beautiful. Xiao Jin looked straight ahead the whole time. When she came out of the subway, she had a new look. Compared with the bustling and modern feeling on their side, this place was still lively and there were many tourists, but the buildings and the surrounding alleys had a special ancient charm, which filled this place with a simple and elegant atmosphere. However, it was a special place after all, and there were many luxury cars. It would not be strange if the Feng family came here. She walked to the place in the photo. Not far away, someone in the crowd noticed her. They looked at each other and frowned. If the great ancestor was here, there must be someone monitoring and protecting him in the dark. Xiao Jin was a person that the Feng family paid special attention to. Her appearance here would, of course, attract attention. The further Xiao Jin walked, the more the lively atmosphere changed. This place was surrounded by alleys. Other than the occasional tourists, it was actually a normal living environment for the residents. There were also tea houses nearby. They were real tea houses, and they could only drink tea and chat. Xiao Jin walked to the alley in the photo. This was an alley. Walking inside, there were ordinary courtyard houses on both sides. It was impossible to tell which one was where the Feng family's grand ancestor lived. If there is a guard at the entrance of the alley, they weren't guards. They were people who looked like they were in plain clothes, but from their physique and bearing, one could tell that they had received special training. They were walking back and forth in the alley. Through them, it was likely that the grand ancestor lived here. It doesn't even stop tourists from entering. After all, this was the residential area. Xiao Jin only looked inside, but did not walk in. Someone next to her was staring at her urgently. If it was an ordinary person, they probably wouldn't notice this kind of monitoring gaze. However, Xiao Jin only glanced at it for a moment before walking to the other side. The person who was monitoring her seemed to be relieved. It seemed that she probably didn't see anything. Then, Xiao Jin walked to a steamed bun shop about 100 meters away. Chapter 255. It was close to noon. Other than breakfast, very few people would choose to eat steamed buns for lunch, especially in a special area like this. where there were many steamed buns. The whole shop was very clean. It was small, and there were not many people inside. An old man was sitting by the window. He was eating a steamed bun and coughing from time to time. There was a cage on the table. Inside the cage was a beautiful bird of unknown species. Xiao Jin walked in, ordered a basket of steamed buns, and sat at the table next to the old man. The old man looked ordinary, but he did not look kind. He gave off a very strict feeling. He was like the old-fashioned old people at home. Xiao Jin looked at him. The old man also looked up at Xiao Jin. Xiao Jin smiled and said, "Old man, if you are still coughing, oily steamed buns are not suitable. They are not good for your health." Hearing this, the serious-looking old man laughed and looked a little kinder. "You're quite interesting, little girl. It's just that I'm old and I'm already so old. As a person, I should enjoy life as much as I can. I just want to eat a bun now. Even if I keep coughing, it won't affect the bun." Xiao Jin nodded. "You are right. People should enjoy life as long as they are alive." At this time, the shop owner came in with a basket of steamed buns. When he saw Xiao Jin talking to the old man, he smiled and said, "Old man, is this your granddaughter? She is very handsome." His words showed that he was very familiar with the old man. He must have come here often to eat steamed buns. The old man smiled and shook his head. "I am not so lucky to have such a beautiful granddaughter. She is so kind. She saw me coughing and ate steamed buns. She told me that steamed buns are too oily and are not good for your health." The shop owner also laughed. "Young lady, don't worry. Our steamed buns are all authentic and oily. The old man eats vegetarian steamed buns. It is not a problem." He waved his hand and went to do his own things. Xiao Jin nodded and began to eat the steaming hot steamed buns. Xiao Jin's words probably made the old man interested. He asked, "You are not in school now?" Xiao Jin took a bite of the steamed bun. The soup spilled out. It tasted pretty good. She said softly, "I am in my second year. I don't have classes today, so I came out to play." The old man understood. "You haven't been in the capital for long, right?"
Yes.
Xiao Jin smiled faintly. "Yes, I'm from Insignia City." "Oh, that is quite far away. You were admitted to a university here? What an amazing child." In just a few sentences, the old man had already started chatting with her casually. Too. The old man laughed. "Life is to enjoy in time and eat good food. For people of my age, being able to eat these things is a blessing. I also agree with the saying of enjoying in time." Xiao Jin picked up the third steamed bun. There were only 4 steamed buns in this basket, and they were all only the size of a baby's fist. As she ate, she smiled and looked at the old man. "You should enjoy as much as you have. It is right to enjoy in time, but if you don't enjoy your own fortune, you will suffer retribution sooner or later. Don't you think so, great ancestor?" The old man, who was still smiling, froze for a moment. Chapter 256. Why didn't she enter the alley? It was because when she arrived at this place, she felt that the great ancestor didn't live there at all. He lived in another place. He usually didn't appear in the alley just now. He was just nearby like an ordinary resident living here. In fact, even those who protected him had never seen the great ancestor. What they saw was just a shadow. Those Feng family people might not have seen him. Such a person who cherished his life would definitely protect himself at all costs. He was now sitting in front of Xiao Jin without any preparation. He was just an ordinary old man. No one could recognize that he was the great ancestor of the Feng family. The best protection for a great hermit was to hide in the city among ordinary people. However, the great ancestor was cunning and vigilant all his life. Even if he was exposed, he would not easily drop the chain. In a moment, he recovered to a laughing appearance. "You little girl's words are really interesting. Of course, an individual's fortune should be enjoyed by himself. Who can have this ability to enjoy others' fortune? Since it is destined, then he should enjoy it." This sentence had already made his attitude clear. Since Xiao Jin recognized him, there was no need to deliberately disguise, and he would not show his fear directly. He now just regarded Xiao Jin as an ordinary array master. But in the world, this Xiao Jin could recognize his identity at a glance. This Xiao Jin was really not simple. Of course, he knew Xiao Jin. On the suspect list given by his brother Aju, this Xiao Jin was on it. Now that the Feng family was in trouble, they suspected that Xiao Jin was behind it. He didn't doubt it before, but now that Xiao Jin came to him, he was very sure. The Feng family's matter was related to this girl. How did she do it? He could get the fortune of others, but this girl could easily disintegrate it, and she came to him, which meant that she was not afraid. It was enough to make him 100% on guard. When he first saw Xiao Jin come in, for a moment, he actually thought that the other party was just passing by accidentally. His originally kind eyes had already become somewhat gloomy. He did not say that he was a strict old man, but now that his smile had disappeared, there was a sense of coldness. Xiao Jin didn't answer him. He just finished the fourth soup dumpling slowly. When he got up to pay the bill, he chuckled and said, "Then I wish you a good life. You saved someone you shouldn't have saved. This is your own fault." She didn't speak in riddles with others. She told the Grand Ancestor directly. Saving Fengfei he was a mistake. This mistake was the beginning of the Feng family's destruction. Seeing her leave after paying the bill, the Great Ancestor's face darkened. He had lived here for more than 10 years and had never been recognized by anyone. This girl easily exposed his identity and was able to cause the Fengfei he to be in such a predicament. So, what did Fengfei he do? In the birdcage on the table, the birds chirped, which sounded crisp and pleasant. The Great Ancestor stroked the bird's head slowly, then he continued to eat the remaining buns. He seemed to be slow, but in fact, if a careful person was here, he could notice that his movements were a little impatient. He was not as gentle as before. He had lived here for more than 10 years, and he knew the people nearby. When the shop owner talked to him, he just nodded reluctantly, then he quickened his pace and left here. He realized that something big was really going to happen to the Feng family. He couldn't let this happen. Chapter 257. Xiao Jin came to the side of the road, and a black car was parked not far away. The car was coated with a special film. Looking outside, she couldn't see the person inside. She walked over and raised her hand to knock on the car window without hesitation. The car window rolled down, and Song Yanqing's stunning face appeared in her sight, bringing a fresh and elegant aura. "You know it's me?" He chuckled. Ayu in the front row said, "Master, the last time we met Miss Qiao, she seemed to have driven this car." Xiao Jin just shook her head and said, "I can feel you when you appear here. Why are you here?" She didn't say that she was going to look for the Great Ancestor today. Song Yanqing didn't speak. He just opened the door first and let Xiao Jin get in. Xiao Jin sat in naturally. Song Yanqing sat on the other side and said, "Are you here to look for the Great Ancestor?" Xiao Jin nodded. "Song Yanqing, did you find him?" Xiao Jin, "Found him." Song Yanqing was a little surprised. "It's so easy to see him." The Great Ancestor of the Feng family has always been very secretive. Even he hasn't seen him. He hasn't heard anything for so many years. The other party is very surprising. Xiao Jin directly exposed the Great Ancestor's background. He doesn't live in the place in the photo, but he lives nearby and disguised himself as an ordinary resident. Even the people who protect him don't know who they are protecting. While talking, she saw the Great Ancestor walking over. She could feel it, but the Great Ancestor couldn't feel her nearby. Xiao Jin reached out and pointed. "Look, it's him." Song Yanqing, the real person, came unexpectedly. He used to think that the Great Ancestor was mysterious. Especially with the Feng family's nervous attitude, it must be very difficult to see him. Maybe he was in a more mysterious place. He never expected that the other party would appear in front of him with a birdcage. He looked at his age and found that he was about 70 or 80 years old. However, in his memories, this Grand Ancestor had existed for a very long time. He was also an array formation master. It was hard to say if he was over 100 years old. To be able to have such a body at the age of 100, it was indeed strange. Song Yanqing looked at him a few times and laughed. "I didn't expect him to be so ordinary. There was nothing wrong with his appearance." He looked at Xiao Jin again. "I remember you said that doing these things can easily backfire. People who suffered from the backlash usually didn't look too good, but this Grand Ancestor didn't have any problems. There will indeed be a backlash." He used the formation to borrow the luck of others to block it. Xiao Jin paused for a moment. I didn't think carefully enough before. If the Feng family only has him and Azu, two array masters, then borrowing luck and blocking the backlash, such a big family, such an array can't be done by just the two of them. Song Yanqing raised his eyebrows slightly. Is there someone behind them? Xiao Jin nodded. There must be. Last time, another array master appeared in UCK's incident. It might not be involved, but after all, this world was so big. Her intuition always appeared inexplicably, but not everything would have an intuition. She lowered her head and thought for a while. I think the array master who changed your fate probably won't be hidden for long. Speaking of this, Song Yanqing's pupils suddenly shrank for a moment. His expression was also a little cold. He was polite to people, but he wasn't a good person. The person who changed his fate would naturally have the same ending. Chapter 258. Aji got out of the car to smoke. The main reason was that he didn't quite understand what Miss Chow talked about with the young master every time. The young master didn't hide it from him. He didn't realize it was a secret at all. In fact, he knew that this was because the young master trusted him, but people always had to be tactful. Even if he understood, Aji would never listen. He only knew one fact. Miss Chow was a badass character. If there is someone behind them, their strength will be even greater. Song Yanqing carefully analyzed the possibilities. The Feng family is such a big family. If they can control the Feng family, they will inevitably control more forces, and it will be more serious. He looked serious as if he thought of something terrible. Don't worry about this. Xiao Jin shook his head. If it is a higher level, it represents the country's national fate. No one can carry such a fate except for the destined person. It is possible that they have infiltrated some forces. Moreover, array masters and spiritual masters were extremely difficult to come by. If they really appeared, the number of array masters that still existed could be counted. Otherwise, the world would have been in chaos long ago. Song Yanqing asked, You can't find out? Xiao Jin just shook his head. I didn't find out. It's not that I can't find out, but the other party didn't give me any clues. Just like the great ancestor, she directly found out when she arrived here. For other people, if the other party didn't show up, it would be troublesome to check people out of thin air. She was an array master, not a real fortune teller. Too far away? Song Yanqing looked out of the window and thought for a moment. I have a guess. The other party may not be active in the capital often, and the range of domestic activities is still too large. It may be abroad. Abroad? Xiao Jin thought for a moment. It is very possible. The farther the place, the harder it is to check. The two chatted happily, but Song Yanqing's thoughts drifted to another place. Will there be spiritual masters abroad? Of course. Xiao Jin said very directly. I haven't been there, but I know. This kind of thing must be random on a global scale. There are not only spiritual masters in China. Maybe the name abroad is different. I can feel that there is still abnormal energy overseas. Energy? Song Yanqing tilted his head and showed an interesting expression. What do you feel in your world? How do you formation masters see this world? Just like you guys. Xiao Jin was very indifferent. There's nothing special about this world. Array masters only have an extra layer of perception that they can use. The difference is that some people use it to do bad things, while others use it to benefit the world. Song Yanqing, what about you? What do you think? He turned sideways and looked at Xiao Jin seriously. Actually, I've always wanted to ask you what your thoughts are. I was about to die at that time. Even if you needed death energy, I felt that you had more ways to get it. I felt that even without me, you could have avoided the backlash you were talking about. You saved me, and even made me a spiritualist. When you did all this, did you not think about why? Do I need to think? Xiao Jin felt that his question was very strange. I need death aura, and you happen to be the closest to me. Saving you didn't take much effort, and doing these things is the same. She raised her eyebrows. It's just convenient. Song Yanqing sighed slightly. I understand. He was good at using complicated thoughts to speculate about others, but in the end, there was someone who didn't take the normal path. Chapter 259. Sometimes she looks mysterious and powerful, but her thoughts are extremely simple and casual. Saving him is convenient, and so is doing other things, because it doesn't take any effort. Perhaps in the eyes of others, this is a miracle, but in her eyes, it is natural. Xiao Jian says seriously. In fact, there is another meaning. Song Yanqing looks at her. Xiao Jian says, "You are beautiful." Song Yanqing. Dan hears this sentence when he lowers his body and is about to return to the car. Dan, he silently straightens up again. It's not suitable for him to return to the car for the time being. He should be under the car. Song Yanqing laughs so hard that his shoulders are shaking. His slender fingers slide across the corners of his mouth. He can't hide his smile, and his whole body is trembling. Yes, I have to be glad that I am good-looking. Whether it is true or not, he doesn't consider that he is good-looking. But this is the first time he clearly understands how important it is to be good-looking. Xiao Jin's expression is still serious. You don't have to laugh. I am not praising you. I am just stating a fact. No one can say that Song Yanqing is not good-looking. Song Yanqing now fully understands that her brain circuit is a little different from others. He takes a few seconds to calm down, but the corners of his mouth still can't hide the smile. Well, but you have to know that this sentence is a compliment. Just like you are good-looking, you are more good-looking than before. When they first met, Song Yanqing didn't have much of an impression of her. She looks like a hurt and depraved girl. Xiao Jin, during this period of time, she has been nourishing herself well. She doesn't care whether she is good-looking or not, because her body is getting healthier and has reached the ultimate perfect state of human beings. There is no need for exercise or additional training. She can now overturn a car with her ordinary strength. This is the perverse part of an array master. As long as you know how to use array points, you can achieve all kinds of incredible goals. Xiao Jin thinks for a moment. We seem to have deviated from the topic. Song Yanqing hummed softly and laughed. We were just talking about spiritual readers overseas. Xiao Jin said, Yes, I have to go abroad for my summer vacation. It will be around 2 to 3 weeks. Song Yanqing knew that she was going, but he didn't expect it to take so long. What if you need my death aura? Xiao Jin glanced at him and said, It's okay to take it later. Song Yanqing narrowed his eyes slightly and replied, He looked at the time. Do you have anything to do at noon? Xiao Jin shook his head and said gently, I'll take you to lunch. Xiao Jin, okay. Song Yanqing asked Dan to come back and drive. He instructed him to go to a restaurant that Xiao Jin had never heard of. He didn't need to have heard of it before. Anyway, it was delicious. In the end, she bumped into Musilian this time. It wasn't that she bumped into him, but she saw Musilian first. He was fooling around with a large group of rich second-generation young masters. But in the place they came to, even Musilian only ate in the private room on the first floor. Song Yanqing took Xiao Jin directly to a private room on a higher floor, where the chef served. After going upstairs, Xiao Jin said to Song Yanqing, I saw Qi Lian. Song Yanqing immediately reacted. Ask him to come up and eat with us? Xiao Jin refused. No, there are too many people. If you pay, I won't be able to afford it next time. Song Yanqing. Chapter 260. If Musilian heard this, he would probably burst into tears. While they were eating in the private room downstairs, a rich man who had just returned from the washroom sneaked around and exclaimed, Fuck! Do you know who I saw just now? All the rich men in the room looked over. Who did you see? Yeah, he looks like he hasn't seen the world yet. Musilian held his wine glass and said happily, What's the matter? Did you see your father? The rich man said, He's more of a father than my father. I saw young Master Song. Everyone. Fuck. Although there were many Lord Song in the capital, the only one who could be addressed as young Master Song by these rich men was Song Yanqing. Everyone knew who he was at the mention of him. The rich men were proud. It's so glorious. I actually ate at the same place as young Master Song today. I have to post it on my WeChat moments to celebrate. Musilian. His expression was a little strange. Aren't you exaggerating? It's not like we're eating at the same place. The rich man retorted, Fuck. We're not like you who talked to him before. Who in the capital doesn't treat him like a god? My parents don't even compare him to me at home. In their words, I'm humiliating him by comparing me to young Master Song's hair. Musilian. Although it was exaggerated, it was the truth. The rich man who spoke earlier became even more excited. Do you think that's all? What's the most important thing? It's that a girl appeared beside him. Okay? Fuck. I saw her just now. She looks like a fairy just like him. She's definitely not the kind of low-class goods you usually see. She doesn't look like a rich man's daughter either. I don't know if she's just returned to the country. Not to mention her figure and appearance. The key is her temperament. She's a perfect match with him. Everyone was so shocked that they couldn't even be bothered to drink. How is that possible? There's someone who's not inferior to him when walking with him? Isn't it too exaggerated? How can there be such a fairy girl? Fuck. There's someone in the capital who's worthy of young Master Song? Didn't they say that the Mu family's adopted daughter was very close to him? Everyone suddenly looked at Musilian. Musilian instantly knew that they were talking about Xiao Jin. Yes, the news that there was a girl around Song Yanqing had spread like wildfire recently. Some people also said that she was the adopted daughter of the Mu family, but the Song family deliberately suppressed the news. Most importantly, not many people had actually seen the current Xiao Jin. They had only heard of him. This group of rich second-generation heirs usually didn't hang out in school, so naturally, they didn't know Xiao Jin. When they saw him this time, they thought he was from another family. The key point was that Musilian didn't really acknowledge Xiao Jin as his sister outside. Musilian coughed. I don't know. Don't ask me. The group of brothers began to urge him. You don't know? She's already considered your younger sister, yet you still don't know? Musilian flew into a rage out of humiliation. What kind of person is young Master Song? Didn't a fairy girl appear? My mother's adopted daughter is not presentable. He knew that they were talking about Xiao Jin, but he just didn't want to say it. Otherwise, this group of bastards would chase after him and ask for gossip. How would he know? He didn't even know how these two fairies hooked up. At this moment, a man walked in from outside. He was wearing a suit and was tall and looked quite intimidating. It was Song Yanqing's personal bodyguard, Ah Tong. Ah Tong looked around at everyone in the private room and smiled. Everyone, I didn't expect Miss Chiao's brother to be eating here. My young master said that this meal is on him. Musilian. Chapter 261. Mu Qilian felt a sharp pain in his face. He had just denied that the girl with Song Yanqing had nothing to do with his sister. However, everyone present knew that he was the only one who had a sister with the surname Chiao. Bin went out after he finished speaking. He was so leisurely that he didn't think about the awkward situation Musilian would face. After that, everyone looked at him with strange expressions. My mother's adopted daughter can't be presentable? I don't know. I don't know where this fairy sister came from. Everyone spoke one after another. It was a classic example of sarcasm. Musilian. He drank a mouthful of wine to calm himself down. No, I really don't know. Who are you lying to? The rich second generation who came in to deliver the news looked wretched. How can you not know that your sister has such a good relationship with young Master Song? Fuck, your sister is really a fairy. How can she have such a good relationship with young Master Song? Isn't she a fairy? She's really good looking. This group of rich second generation usually didn't have a filter, but in front of Xiao Jin, they couldn't say anything else. They kept repeating the words, good looking, and couldn't find the right adjective. Those who hadn't seen her before were curious. How good looking? To be able to make young Master Song treat her differently, she must be good looking. I just don't know how good looking she is. The rich second generation said mysteriously, I can't describe it. She's just like young Master Song. She's so fairy-like that she's glowing. That's too exaggerated. Is she really that good looking? Then we have to broaden our horizons. Ha 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 ha, Qilian, your sister is so good looking. Aren't you moved at all? Someone suddenly said this in a teasing tone. Musilian's face sank when he heard this. What do you mean? The originally cheerful atmosphere became a little stagnant. Everyone looked at the person who spoke. The person who said this realized that he had said something wrong. He quickly restrained his smile and became a little nervous. No, I just said it casually. Don't take it seriously. Everyone was used to joking and some things came out easily. Xiao Jin was not Musilian's biological sister, which was why he had such a conjecture. But sometimes, even if he was used to joking, it didn't mean that every Musilian could afford it. His face darkened. Don't put your filthy thoughts on me. Xiao Jin was brought back by his biological mother. She had raised him for 20 years. How could he have other thoughts? The rich second-generation heir who had first met Song Yanqing also chimed in, yes, if you see Sister Qilian, you definitely won't be able to say that. Encountering someone with such a temperament, he felt that anything he said would be blasphemous. Hey, Qilian, don't mind him. He's just an idiot who spouts nonsense. Don't lower yourself to his level. Besides, didn't young Master Song invite us? Someone came out to smooth things over, and the topic was finally diverted. Song Yanqing treating everyone was a rare thing. Almost everyone sitting in the room felt honored. They all took out their phones to edit their WeChat moments. It was as if this was something that their ancestors had never done before. After all, this group of people usually listened to Song Yanqing. To be treated to a meal by him was too significant, okay? Even if it was to rub against Musilian's sister, what did it matter? Musilian's sister was their sister. If Musilian knew these people's shameless thoughts, he probably wouldn't want to eat on the spot. Chapter 262. How's your relationship with your family? I heard that your grandfather is back. At the dinner table, Song Yanqing suddenly brought up this question. Xiao Jin said, he came back a long time ago. You should have asked this question earlier. Song Yanqing smiled faintly. He felt that because of his relationship with Xiao Jin, it was the right time to ask her some questions. Xiao Jin suddenly asked, your father hasn't come back from abroad? Song Yanqing nodded. There are a lot of things to do. There's nothing I can do. For people at their level, especially in the family, he basically helped in the country. He had to rely on Song Main to talk about many things abroad. Of course, his sister Song Suyu would also help. The Song family didn't raise idle people. Even his mother was abroad from time to time. Xiao Jin paused for a moment. I think I'll run into something this time. As for what it was, she couldn't tell. Song Yanqing asked curiously, what happened? Xiao Jin shook her head. I definitely don't know. It probably has something to do with school. I can calculate the fate of many people, but I can't calculate my own. Song Yanqing smiled. It's different from what I imagined. He thought that such a person would definitely calculate her life's fate in advance. But it was normal. In that case, wouldn't life be meaningless? Not everyone liked having their fate calculated by others. Just like those fortune tellers, not everyone was willing to calculate their own fate. The greatest novelty of a person was the unknown of fate. Xiao Jin took a bite of the meatball. My fate will be blocked by karma. I can't see everything in the future. However, my intuition is very accurate. It's an extra compensation. Song Yanqing thought of the characteristics of his spiritualist and asked her softly, how do you need to increase your ability? Xiao Jin shook her head. It's actually impossible to predict. It's true that abilities can be increased, but everyone has a corresponding way of growth. It was already 1 in 10,000 for a spiritual reader to be able to awaken. If they could still advance, they would also be 1 in 10,000 for a spiritual reader. Everyone's abilities are predestined from the moment they awaken. Generally, those who can grow are innately awakened. As they grow older, they will become stronger and stronger until they reach a certain stage. Just like her, she was able to find the demonic spirit seed and increase her defenses. In fact, she was already the strongest array master. Back then, how did she become the strongest? It was as if she was born this way. This was very infuriating. Song Yanqing smiled and said, you said at the beginning that you could strengthen your abilities through training. Xiao Jin glanced at him. That's for you. You should train more often. I have a feeling that you'll improve at some point. You're different from others. Since you were targeted by the Rakshasa realm, you are not a simple spirit master of speech. Have you seen them recently? Song Yanqing shook his head. I haven't seen you since the last time you awakened me. Just because they haven't seen it doesn't mean that they have given up. We still have to be careful. She thought for a moment and continued, the aura of death on your body is heavy. there's still a possibility of danger. If your mind is firm, you won't be disturbed by the Rakshasa realm. As long as there's a crack in your heart, they can take advantage of it and enter. Song Yanqing nodded. I know. At his level, his mind was firm. He had been like this for so many years. Chapter 263. After dinner, Song Yanqing sent Xiao Jin to class as usual. She was about to have her final exam. After the exam, she would officially have a holiday and go abroad for school activities. Before getting out of the car, Song Yanqing raised his eyes slightly and said to him, Good luck, Xiao Jin. I'll try my best. Song Yanqing. He laughed and watched Xiao Jin leave. He also noticed that when Xiao Jin got out of the car, he was seen. The college student immediately became dumbfounded and was shocked by Song Yanqing's appearance. He hid his smile and Adan closed the car door, blocking others' view. He closed his eyes and pondered for a moment before saying in a low voice, Call my father and ask him to arrange for me to go abroad during the summer vacation. Adan was a little shocked and stammered, Young master, that's not very good, is it? How long do you plan to stay? Song Yanqing had gone abroad before, but he used to go abroad for treatment and checkups. He usually didn't stay for long, and even if he lived there, he was strictly protected. Compared to in the country, the Song family's power would be restricted abroad. Of course, Song Shi-in still wanted to protect her son under her nose. Song Yanqing. Nothing will happen now. He had a certain level of self-protection, and Xiao Jin was abroad. He didn't hide his purpose, so Adan asked directly, Young master, is it because Miss Xiao is going abroad to participate in activities? Song Yanqing nodded slightly. Adan was a little surprised. Adan didn't quite understand what young master meant to Miss Xiao. If they were in a relationship, the two of them were together every day. Every time Miss Xiao came, Adan was also present. Adan knew whether they were in a relationship or not. Miss Xiao didn't mean that at all, but young master didn't like to get along with others, except for Xiao Jin. So what did young master mean? Ayer was a little confused. After all, he was a solo player from his mother's womb. These things were a little too difficult for him. Moreover, only Song Yanqing himself knew what he was thinking. No one could guess what he was thinking. After Xiao Jin finished his classes at school and returned to the Mu family, he found that the atmosphere at home was different from usual. Xiao Fei was dressed in formal attire. He was probably going to attend a party, but there was not much joy on his face. When she saw Xiao Jin, she frowned and said, Jin. Xiao Jin asked, What's wrong? Coincidentally, at this moment, Mu Jinming also came down from upstairs. When he saw Xiao Jin, he directly said, Jin, change into your formal attire and come with us to the Ji family. It's someone's birthday in the Ji family tonight, so they invited our family. Oh, the banquet. There were many such banquets. Basically, they would be held at the Mu residence every once in a while. However, Xiao Jin didn't go most of the time. Since she was asked to go now, it meant that the other party had specially mentioned it. If it was another family, it would be fine, but it had to be the Ji family. Xiao Fei didn't want Xiao Jin to see the Ji family at all. And now, face to face. At this moment, she looked at Mu Jinming unhappily. Does Xiao Jin really have to go? Mu Jinming sighed. If I could, I wouldn't say it. Uncle Ji specially mentioned it. I can't go against his wishes. He walked over and patted Xiao Fei's shoulder. You don't have to worry too much. Maybe Xiao Jin is thinking too much. Chapter 264. Until now, there was no way to verify whether Xiao Jin was telling the truth or not. Mu Jinming said to Xiao Jin, Go up and change your clothes. Xiao Jin nodded. Xiao Fei was still a little worried. I'm just afraid. If she was really recognized, who knew what would happen? Xiao Jin went upstairs to change her clothes. Since she came back, Mu Jinming had customized several dresses for her. In order to deal with these occasions, she wasn't picky about what she wore. She simply chose a pure black strapless dress. She didn't need to dress up. Her seaweed-like hair hung down, and she simply wore a swan necklace around her neck. There were no extra pendants. It was already the most noble. When she came down in her stiletto sandals, Muzilian and Muzichu had already returned. They had already received the notice, so the men of the Mu family were all wearing black suits. Mu Jinming was wearing a thick gray suit, while Xiao Fei was wearing a more dignified fishtail dress. There was no doubt that her beautiful figure was outlined. When they saw Xiao Jin, the men of the Mu family were still a little stunned. Although Xiao Fei was depressed, she smiled when she saw Xiao Jin. My Jin is so beautiful. She was really beautiful now. Xiao Jin just smiled faintly. Xiao Fei held her hand and followed the men of the Mu family. Xiao Jin looked around. Where's old master? Your grandfather has already gone. The one who answered her was Mu Junming. He said very naturally, he and Grandpa Ji are old friends, so he went early to catch up with his old friends. Xiao Jin nodded and didn't ask anymore. The Ji family lived in the city center. Compared to the luxury of other families, the Ji family still lived in an old-fashioned courtyard. However, the courtyard had been specially renovated, and the interior had become modern. The courtyard was big enough to hold a banquet. Moreover, the location of the courtyard wasn't something that ordinary people could buy. On the way there, Mu Jinming briefly introduced the current situation of the Ji family. This was Old Master Ji's family, not the main family of the Ji family. But someone from the main family would come. Ji Chiyue was the eldest son of Old Man Ji. His wife was called Chai Yueli. She was the woman who had returned not long ago and had yet to leave. Perhaps they had foreseen this, but when Xiao Jin and the Mu family arrived at the Ji family's courtyard, they saw Ji Pingon and his family entertaining the guests as soon as they entered the house. Ji Chiyue didn't inherit any good genes. His appearance was relatively ordinary, but he had a noble temperament that was tempered by a rich environment. He looked refined. On the other hand, the woman standing beside him was noble and generous. Her beauty was strong and compelling, making her unforgettable. This was also the capital that allowed her to rise to the top back then. Even though time had passed, it did not leave many traces on her face. She followed the Ji family's old man to entertain the guests. When the Mu family walked in, she felt it. She raised her head and saw Xiao Jin. Almost everyone around looked at the Mu family, mainly because Xiao Jin was as beautiful as the daughter-in-law of the Ji family. She was like an elegant and noble white swan. When she walked in from outside, it was enough to make people hold their breaths. Only amazement was left. Old Master Ji looked at Mu Jinming and smiled kindly. When Ji Chiyue's wife, Chai Yueli, saw Xiao Jin, she was slightly stunned. Then, as if she had thought of something, a puzzling shock slowly rose in her eyes. Xiao Jin's lips curled into an elegant and charming smile. She knew that she had recognized her. Chapter 265. Chai Yueli's strange reaction didn't attract anyone's attention. Everyone's attention was attracted by the adopted daughter of the Mu family. Someone was stunned and couldn't help but sigh. The adopted daughter of the Mu family? She's so beautiful. The Mu family are all dragons and phoenixes among men. I didn't expect the adopted daughter to be so beautiful. Someone whispered disdainfully, she's just an adopted daughter. No matter how beautiful she is, she can't be presentable. Someone else said, I heard that this adopted daughter has an unusual relationship with the young master of the Song family. Ji Pingon walked forward and chuckled at Mu Jinming. Junming, you came at the right time. He said to Ji Chiyue and Chai Yueli, this is old Master Mu's family. Chiyue has seen them before. Yueli, you're often abroad, so you're not familiar with them. He couldn't say that Xiao Jin was only the adopted daughter of the Mu family, so he naturally wouldn't reveal Chai Yueli's identity. Here, one of them was the matriarch of old Master Ji's bloodline, and the other was the daughter of the Mu family. That was enough. Ji Chiyue revealed a gentle smile and reached out to shake Mu Jinming's hand. Jinming, I thought your son was already outstanding enough, but I didn't expect your daughter to be so devastatingly beautiful. You two are so lucky to have such a beautiful little jacket. Back then, I also wanted to have a daughter. Chai Yueli's pupils constricted when she heard that. The Mu family also froze. Xiao Fei's smile was a little stiff. She subconsciously looked at Chai Yueli and noticed the change in her eyes. In an instant, Chai Yueli returned to her natural and graceful state and smiled. What are you talking about? Back then, I asked you if you wanted me to give birth to a daughter for you. Didn't you feel bad that I hurt my body when giving birth to Fanzheng and didn't want me to give birth to another? Her voice was so sweet that it seemed to be mixed with charm. It sounded coquettish, but it didn't seem to mean that. This was Cha Yueli's capital. She had a moving face and a charming voice. When she said that, it sounded like she and Ji Chiyue had a good relationship. Ji Chiyue only smiled and looked at her with a doting expression. Mu Zhiming had been in the business world for a long time. In the face of such a situation, he naturally laughed heartily and didn't show any problems. She even pinched Xiao Fei's palm, signaling her not to reveal any strange expressions. Otherwise, even if there was no problem, it would raise suspicions. Xiao Fei was experienced in such situations. He forced himself to stay alert and asked Xiao Jin and the two Mu brothers to call for help. They greeted him one by one, but Ji Pingon didn't notice anything. He just smiled and said, "Yes, all of you are obedient. If you feel bored, you can go to the backyard. Fanzheng and the others are there. It's good for young people to gather together." After Old Master Ji finished speaking, Xiao Fei asked Muzichu and Muzilian to take Xiao Jin away. It was better to interact with people of the same generation who knew nothing than to interact with elders. At the same time, Xiao Fei also noticed that Ji Chiyue and Cha Yueli looked different from Xiao Jin. It was impossible to tell at a glance that she wasn't their daughter. Xiao Fei was slightly relieved. It was already like this. It was impossible for the Ji family to recognize her, right? However, when Xiao Jin was taken away by Muzilian and Muzichu, she turned around and saw Cha Yueli looking at her from the corner of her eyes. When she saw Xiao Jin turn around, she quickly retracted her gaze. Chapter 266. Muzilian said in a low voice, "She really doesn't look like her." He glanced at Xiao Jin. "See, she really doesn't look like her." Muzichu said softly, "Her mouth is quite similar." Muzilian, "What are you talking about?" Xiao Jin suddenly said, "She recognized me." Muzichu and Muzilian stopped and looked at him with stiff expressions. "What do you mean she recognized you?" Xiao Jin said with a smile, "She recognized me as the girl she abandoned back then." Muzilian, "Fuck." He couldn't believe this. "You don't look very similar. How did she recognize you?" Xiao Jin said, "I'm her daughter. That's the truth. I don't look like them, but that doesn't mean I don't look like someone she knows. Maybe I look like her parents. She often sees familiar faces, so she recognized me when she saw me. Sometimes, children would not necessarily look like their parents. Instead, they would look like other relatives in the family. This was the intergenerational gene. Ji Chiyue and Cha Yueli didn't look like her, but that didn't mean that Cha Yueli's family didn't look like Xiao Jin. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to recognize Xiao Jin at a glance. No. Mu Qilian still felt that this was a fantasy. "How do you know that she recognized you?" Xiao Jin, "I knew when I saw her eyes." Muzilian and Muzichu looked at each other. They originally thought that this was a joke, but seeing how serious Xiao Jin was, and how even Cha Yueli recognized her, could it be the truth? She was the daughter of the Ji family? Muzilian grabbed Xiao Jin's wrist. "Let's find an excuse to go back first. Don't stay here anymore." Muzichu said, "No, what excuse do you want? Even if she wasn't feeling well, Grandpa Ji would let her rest at the Ji residence. The best way is to keep a low profile. Other than Xiao Jin and us, who else knows about the relationship between the Ji family and Xiao Jin? You will only make Cha Yueli suspicious. Don't do anything unnecessary." Muzilian was a little anxious. That woman abandoned him for a boy. How can you believe that she won't do anything to Xiao Jin to protect herself? Muzichu analyzed. As long as she's not stupid, she won't act rashly. Xiao Jin was only discovered by her, not by the Ji family. This is the biggest bargaining chip. We can guarantee that the Mu family doesn't know about this, so she won't do anything. Muzichu was right. Xiao Jin also nodded. Muzilian looked at the two of them and put down Xiao Jin's hand. "Do whatever you want." That was true. Cha Yueli only recognized Xiao Jin, but it didn't mean that the Ji family recognized him. Everyone knew that she gave birth to a son, and that he was really Ji Chiyue's flesh and blood. Who would believe that he had a daughter outside? That being said, Muzichu wasn't going to take Xiao Jin to see Ji Fanjing's group. In the end, when he took Xiao Jin somewhere else, they bumped into a large group of people. The leader was a man with gloomy eyebrows and cold eyes. Xiao Jin had seen this man twice. They had met on different occasions. He was tall and straight, leading a group of young masters at the front. He was wearing a black suit, and his expression was cold and imposing. When Musilian and Musichu saw each other, they immediately stopped and called out, "Brother Sky?" He and the group behind him all looked at Xiao Jin. Chapter 267. He turned out to be a child of the Ji family's main family, Ji Sikai. He was old Master Ji's grandnephew. Among the group of people following him, there was also a boy with outstanding looks. He looked younger and was about the same age as Xiao Jin. Obviously, this person was Ji Fanjing. As for the others, they were either descendants of other families or those from the Ji family who followed Ji Sikai here. When Ji Sikai saw the two Mu brothers and Xiao Jin behind them, his lips curled into a strange smile. "You're here?" Musilian was well-behaved in front of him. Musichu nodded. Most people didn't want to get along with Ji Sikai from the Ji family. His personality was very strange. In comparison, his way of doing things was a little overbearing and unreasonable. Those who could hang out with him were basically not ordinary people. Ji Fanjing's gaze landed on Xiao Jin. He asked curiously, "Qilian, this is your sister?" Musilian put on a fake smile.
Yes.
Seeing that Xiao Jin didn't speak, someone behind him said playfully, "Why don't you know how to greet people?" Musilian immediately said, "She doesn't know anyone, and once she opened her mouth to greet people, it would be a tragedy." When they saw Ji Sikai, they had to call him Brother Sikai. Xiao Jin was probably calling him by his name. This was not very respectful to Ji Sikai. They were afraid that Xiao Jin would offend Ji Sikai. Musilian just introduced Xiao Jin casually. "This is Brother Sikai. Beside him is Uncle Chiyue's son, Ji Fanjing." As for the group of people beside them, Musilian introduced them. It was unknown if Xiao Jin heard it or not. After he finished, he scratched Xiao Jin's arm, still hoping that she would greet people. Ji Sikai looked at Xiao Jin playfully. "You don't know how to greet people?" The atmosphere suddenly became a little tense. Xiao Jin looked at Ji Sikai and seemed to hesitate for a while before calling out, "Ji Sikai." Her tone was light, ethereal and clear, giving others a sense of enjoyment. Ji Fanjing frowned. "You should call me brother." Not everyone could call Ji Sikai by his name. Xiao Jin called out to Ji Sikai, but she didn't even want to acknowledge Ji Fanjing and turned her head away. This attitude caused Ji Fanjing's expression to darken. Musilian was sweating. "Brother Sky, Fanjing, don't lower yourself to her level. She calls us that at home too. You know, something happened to her earlier, so she's not very sensitive to things." In the end, there was something wrong with his brain. Musilian had never been grateful for this reason. Xiao Jin didn't react to Musilian's words. In any case, let them say whatever they want. Someone behind Ji Sikai sneered. "Is your brain damaged from all the drugs? We can understand." Saying it so bluntly made the Mu brothers' expressions darken. It was one thing for them to say it, but when someone else said it, it was mocking and humiliating. Moreover, Xiao Jin's drug use was a misunderstanding. Before they could react, Xiao Jin's eyes had already locked onto the person who mocked her just now. Say that again? She didn't have any cold emotions. She just looked at that person with a calm gaze, but it made people feel as if they were bound by an invisible net. It was a boundless sense of suffocation and heaviness. The smile of the person who spoke just now faded bit by bit. The others were puzzled. They all felt that the adopted daughter of the Mu family was really arrogant. Suddenly, Ji Sikai sneered. "Interesting. If you don't want to greet people, then so be it." Chapter 268. He had already met Xiao Jin twice. Once, Xiao Jin was with Song Yanqing. He must know something. Ji Sikai invited, "It's still early. Shall we play cards?" Young masters also knew how to pass the time. At this time, it wasn't suitable for other forms of entertainment. The only suitable way was to play cards. The moment he said that, the tense atmosphere dissipated. If he said something that he shouldn't say, he wouldn't be giving Ji Sikai face. Since Ji Sikai had spoken, the Musilian brothers couldn't possibly reject him. They glanced at Xiao Jin, and Xiao Jin nodded slightly. Only then did they agree. Seeing how the Mu brothers listened to Xiao Jin, Ji Sikai sneered. In the big room in the backyard, the group took out poker cards. Not everyone played, but they watched Ji Sikai and the others play. Musachu from the Mu family went up because he was good at math and cards. On the other side, it was Ji Sikai and Ji Fanjing. The others cheered them on from the side. Although they said they were playing cards, they were more like ordinary Fight the Landlord. Xiao Jin stood behind Musachu and watched, while Musilian leaned on his brother's back and looked at the cards. The moment he picked up the cards, he complained, "Fuck, you're too unlucky. Such lousy cards?" These were the most taboo things when playing cards. Those who knew how to guess cards would be able to guess the cards in one's hand based on one's emotions. He was too obvious. Musachu glared at Musilian. Even Ji Fanjing sneered. Musilian said embarrassedly, "I won't say any more. You play." Ji Sikai took the landlord. Ji Fanjing's face twitched. When they played, he and Musachu's family kept losing to Musachu. Musachu's cards were terrible to begin with, so he lost the first round. Musilian shouted, "Ji Fanjing, do you know how to play? Can you not let others play?" Ji Fanjing glared at him. "Why wouldn't I? Don't tell me that you two brothers will fight Big Brother Sky?" Musilian wished he could scold Ji Fanjing for being a despicable person. She only knew how to please Ji Sikai. Of course, Ji Sikai knew what was going on. After winning, he began to shuffle the cards. His shuffling movements were fast and flashy. His slender fingers flipped the cards very quickly. Even an ordinary deck of cards gave him a dazzling feeling when he shuffled them. After shuffling, he put down the cards and said casually, "It's boring to just play like this. How about a bet?" Musachu looked at him. "What's the bet?" Money was impossible. All of them added together were not as rich as Ji Sikai. He wouldn't bet money with them either. He would definitely bet on something else. Ji Sikai smiled. He took out a cigarette from the cigarette box beside him and bit it between his lips. "We're not playing too hard. We'll take turns to stick the note. The loser will go down to replace the other person and stick an IOU. You can only collect it after the banquet." Everyone's faces turned green. It was one thing to stick the note, but more importantly, how embarrassing would it be? They could only collect it after the banquet. If they swaggered around, wouldn't they be laughed at like idiots? When he held the cigarette in his mouth, his long and narrow eyes glanced in Xiao Jin's direction. Someone beside him took out a lighter and lowered his body to light the cigarette for him. Xiao Jin didn't look at him. When the smoke gradually rose, Xiao Jin smelled the smoke. She frowned almost imperceptibly. This kind of smoke that humans liked was rather smelly to her. The smell was strong and choking. Even if this cigarette was of the highest quality and had a faint fragrance. She took 2 steps back, turned around, and left. Chapter 269. When Ji Sikai saw Xiao Jin leave, his face immediately turned gloomy. He bit the cigarette and paused for a moment before putting it out. He was just thinking that the little girl's temper was unusually bad. No one would look at Xiao Jin. Now that everyone's target was on their card table, Ji Sikai couldn't ask someone to chase after him. Xiao Jin walked out. He wanted to walk around casually, but he saw Chai Yueli walking over. This was a place where young people like them would hang out, so not many people came here. When he saw Chai Yueli, he realized that she was alone. When Chai Yueli saw Xiao Jin, she stopped in her tracks. She looked at Xiao Jin and was confused for a moment. She didn't know what she should do or say, until she pinched her thigh. The pain woke her up. She couldn't show anything in front of Xiao Jin. With a seemingly friendly smile, she said, "Hello, you're Xiao Jin, right?" She had never heard of Xiao Jin. She only heard about it from others when she came back. She was the adopted daughter of the Mu family. But so what? She had never thought that this girl would have anything to do with her. The daughter that she had once abandoned had long since faded from her memory. But when she saw that face, she realized that some things couldn't be forgotten just because she wanted to. She looked too much like her mother. When she was young, many people said that Chai Yueli didn't look like her mother. Her mother was a typical Jiangnan girl. She was gentle and beautiful, calm and generous. Her face was delicate and quiet. Compared to Chai Yueli's rich beauty, she wasn't too aggressive. Xiao Jin was the same. They looked too much alike. However, compared to his mother, she seemed more otherworldly. It could be seen that she was raised very well by the Mu family. Now that she was standing quietly in front of her, she was so beautiful that one couldn't take their eyes off her. Xiao Jin nodded. She couldn't be her mother's biological daughter. Her mother had passed away more than 10 years ago. This girl looked about the same age as the one he had thrown away. Another 20 years passed. It was said that Xiao Fei adopted her from the orphanage. Chai Yueli's gaze drifted. You? How old are you this year? Xiao Jin said softly, 20. This was undoubtedly the death sentence for Chai Yueli. This was indeed the daughter she had abandoned. Chai Yueli's face was twitching. She tried her best to maintain her noble and generous attitude. The first thing she thought of was that if she couldn't hide it, she would be finished. She would never let anyone know about the existence of her daughter, Xiao Jin. She was living well in the Mu family, and that was enough. Very young. You are very beautiful, just like your mother. Chai Yueli's smile did not reach her eyes. Her words were deliberate. Xiao Jin should resemble his mother. Although she was his biological mother, they did not resemble each other at all. Xiao Jin laughed. His eyes curved like crescent moons. Fei Fei is not my biological mother. Do I really look like her? Chai Yueli's entire body turned cold. She knew her background. She didn't have time to think about why Xiao Jin called Xiao Fei Fei Fei. She just looked at the girl's clear eyes, but felt that she couldn't see the depths of the other party's eyes. For a moment, she thought that the girl in front of her knew the truth and said those words deliberately for her to hear. It was impossible. Who knew that she had a daughter? Mom? A hesitant voice sounded, and Chai Yueli's expression suddenly changed. Chapter 270. It was Ji Fanjing. There was a small white stripe on his forehead, which made him look hilarious. When he saw Chai Yueli, he looked a little confused. Chai Yueli almost couldn't hold back her smile. What are you guys playing? Ji Fanjing said. Brother Sikai insisted on sticking the note. I lost. He looked a little annoyed. He's sticking the note now. You can only take it off after the banquet. Fortunately, the white stripe wasn't very wide. Otherwise, many people would die of laughter if it was stuck there until the banquet ended. There were many people inside who were about to face the same fate as him. Ji Fanjing felt relieved. Chai Yueli couldn't help but laugh. She walked around Xiao Jin and brushed away the white stripe on Ji Fanjing's forehead. The atmosphere between mother and son was harmonious. Your brother Sky really doesn't know his place. No one would doubt that they were the real mother and son. Xiao Jin just watched quietly from the back. She had a faint smile on her lips, but it was as if she had nothing to do with it. She had no intention of getting involved. She didn't seem to be in the same world as these two. When Chai Yueli was about to leave with Ji Fanjing turned back and said to Xiao Jin, Brother Sikai wants you to go in and play with him. Not interested. With that, Xiao Jin left in the opposite direction. Chai Yueli's eyes flashed. She heard Ji Fanjing complaining to her. Mom, this adopted daughter of the Mu family has no sense of propriety. She calls Brother Sikai by his name when she sees him. She doesn't even call the others. She has no manners at all. Chai Yueli forced a smile. You already said that she's the adopted daughter of the Mu family. I heard that she was only recently brought back by the Mu family. Maybe she doesn't know how to behave properly. It has nothing to do with you. Don't mind it too much. Ji Fanjing suddenly said. She's quite pretty. Chai Yueli, she suddenly felt lucky that she hadn't let Ji Fanjing see her mother all these years. The Ji family's banquet lasted for a while. Later, Muzilian, Muzichu, and the others came out one after another. Unsurprisingly, Ji Sikai was the final winner, because he was the only one who didn't have a note on his face. The other young masters had more or less posted a note, but because everyone was playing together, they couldn't help but laugh and didn't have any other thoughts. Xiao Fei found Xiao Jin running around in the crowd. Holding her hand, he said earnestly, Don't run around. Do you see that Ji Sikai over there? He is the eldest young master of the Ji family's main family. His temper is very strange. Don't provoke him. Xiao Jin, Fei Fei, you're thinking too much. I don't even know him. That being said, Xiao Fei glared at his two sons who came over from behind. Both of them had banknotes on their foreheads. Musichu was cold and indifferent, while Musilian felt a little aggrieved. I almost killed Brother Sky. He is indeed sinister and cunning. I thought he had a pair of banknotes, but it turned out to be 2 banknotes. In the end, I fell into his trap. Musichu sneered. This is the difference in IQ. Musilian, do you know how to talk? Musichu said, it's good that you let him win. He's not happy. If he loses, you're done for. Musilian was stunned. Why? How is he not happy? Musichu said directly, because Xiao Jin didn't play. He didn't give him any face. He was definitely unhappy. If Musilian really won the last round, Ji Sekai would probably remember him. Xiao Jin. Musilian paused for a moment, then reacted, damn, it's true. Chapter 271. Xiao Jin wasn't fooling around. He didn't give Ji Sekai any face in front of so many people. He was really a warrior. However, Musilian, who had been used to Xiao Jin's actions for so long, didn't seem to think that it was a big deal. She had been hanging out with Song Yanqing recently, so she naturally looked down on others. Whatever Ji Sekai wanted to do, he had to see if Song Yanqing would agree. Thinking of this, Musilian felt a little jealous. Sure enough, people who relied on big thighs were different. After the banquet ended, the Mu family drove back and picked up Mu Xiangshan, who was chatting with an old friend. Mu Xiangshan's face was glowing as he chatted and ate. However, the moment he got into the car, he said, there's a girl from the Ji family who just came back from abroad. I think she's knowledgeable and generous. She even asked me about Chi-Chu. Aya, our Chi-Chu is really popular. Musichu didn't say anything. Musilian was a little jealous. I really don't know what those girls like about him. Do they like that he doesn't talk, or that he doesn't give them a good look? Musichu and Musilian's personalities were very different. Musichu didn't like to talk. Even when he rejected a girl's confession, he was very direct. On the other hand, Musilian was like a little white dragon in the waves, flirting here and there. Both of them had their hearts broken. Musichu's pain was at least gone for a period of time. Musilian was often called a jerk by girls. Even so, the one who was popular was definitely Musichu. Xiao Fei rolled her eyes. After leaving the Ji family, she heaved a sigh of relief. She was afraid that Xiao Jin would be recognized, so she only said, can your personality be compared to your brother's? It's normal for people to like your brother if they don't like you. Musilian wasn't convinced. Don't the two of us look the same? Doesn't liking him mean that she likes me? Xiao Fei. I'm not blind, I can tell. Mu Zhenming smiled as he watched the mother and son bicker with each other. In this harmonious atmosphere, Mu Xiangshan interrupted. How is it? I told you that the Ji couple doesn't look like Xiao Jin at all. They're definitely not Xiao Jin's biological parents. Just listen to her nonsense. As soon as he said this, everyone in the car fell silent. Mu Xiangshan said, if you want to find your biological parents, it's not like we can't help you find them. We're not that stupid. Xiao Fei was agitated again. Dad, stop talking. Xiao Jin directly said, old man, you're thinking too much. Chai Yueli has already recognized me. Everyone, Xiao Fei was shocked. You recognized me? She couldn't help but raise her voice. You recognized her? What's going on? Did she talk to you? Mu Zhenming also looked at Xiao Jin strangely. She really recognized you? Xiao Jin nodded. She doesn't dare to let the Ji family know. I bumped into her in the backyard of the Ji family. She even asked me how old I was. That was enough to make it clear. The car fell into dead silence. Mu Xiangshan knew that he had said something he shouldn't have, so he didn't say anything. Seeing them like this, Xiao Jin smiled. I already said that you don't have to worry about what she's going to do. She won't dare to expose my existence now. Just pretend that you don't know anything. Xiao Fei grabbed Xiao Jin's arm. She really didn't do anything to you? Xiao Jin said calmly, I don't have a deep grudge with her. As long as I don't make any mistakes, she won't expose me. Just treat me as a stranger. Chapter 272. There was no need for the Mu family to worry. If Chai Yueli was so impulsive, she wouldn't have become Ji Chiyue's wife. Back home, Everyone went to shower and sleep with different thoughts. Xiao Jin changed into his pajamas and sat in front of the computer. His shop was beeping. There was a new business. 1,000 yuan for fortune-telling was considered expensive on the website. It wasn't like he was crazy enough to spend 1,000 yuan for a fortune-telling. However, the client this time. Xiao Jin curled his lips. Anonymous buyer XX. Hello, I want to have my fortune told. Today. Okay, what do you want? Please tell me. Anonymous buyer XX. My husband and I have been married for more than 3 years. When I came home recently, my husband kept asking me if we will be together forever. He loves me very much, I know. But he keeps saying that and it bothers me. I want you to help me read that my husband and I will definitely be together forever, right? As long as I get a positive answer, my husband won't ask anymore. Master Yao Zhu recommended me. She said that you are very accurate. Today, Master Yao Zhu recommended you? Anonymous buyer XX. Yes, I asked her for a fortune-telling, but she said that you are the best person for this kind of marriage. Xiao Jin curled his lips. Today, your date of birth and your husband's date of birth, and their names. Anonymous buyer XX. Su Rong XXXXX. Other party quickly sent a message. Xiao Jin frowned slightly as he deduced. The other party was in the capital. It was very close, but Master Yao Zhu was quite capable. She could tell that there was something wrong with this person, but she couldn't tell more. So she sent her to find Xiao Jin. She probably wanted to test something. This customer must be in contact with Yao Zhu in private. Was she using this to test her? Today, how is your husband? Anonymous buyer XX. Pretty good. What's wrong? Today? No. Today? Pretty good. You will be together forever. Anonymous buyer XX. Really? That's great. I told you. We will definitely be together forever. Anonymous buyer XX. Now I am relieved. Thank you, Master. Most people would be angry if they were given such a perfunctory reply. Was it so easy to earn 1,000 yuan just to get an affirmative answer? However, this customer seemed to be very grateful to Xiao Jin. Today, what did Master Yao Zhu predict for you? When the guest saw this message, he was stunned for a moment, and then he said, Yao Zhu Dashi said that my life is full of twists and turns. I cannot see it clearly. Anonymous buyer XX. I won't hide it from you. Can I show the results to Master Yao Zhu? Today? Sure, up to you. After saying this, she got up and went asleep. On Weibo, after Master Yao Zhu received the feedback from his customers, he angrily posted the results in the group chat. Yao Zhu. I can say the same thing. How can he be so irresponsible? Yao Zhu. I read this person's fate. His fate line is weird, so I didn't dare to look at it. I really thought he was some kind of master, but it turned out that he was just hyping it up. There's obviously something wrong with this fate line. He can't even see the basics, so how can he have the nerve to charge such a high price? The others. Yao Zhu. What did you calculate? Is there a big problem with this customer? Yao Zhu. It's hard to say. I might have to go offline to take a look. This customer is really strange. She lives in the capital, so it's quite close. Yao Zhu. Humph. Wait until I solve this problem. See if I don't report this scammer to the Industry and Commerce Bureau. Who cares who I report to? Does he have a conscience when he scams people? Chapter 273. When she woke up in the morning, Xiao Jin received a message from He Yao. He Yao sent her a picture. They had already picked up the little girl and were bringing her to the capital. He Yao. It's indeed the ability to distort space. The magnetic field around her will be chaotic. Her ability is strange. It should be a pure space ability. He Yao. This is a very rare ability. You've helped us a lot. When you come back, I'll treat you to a meal and tell you in detail. It was Jean. Jinyo, you're welcome. She wasn't the one who found this person, but Fanji. She had other things to do now. She went to school and didn't go home immediately after school in the afternoon. Instead, she told the driver not to pick her up for the time being because she had other things to do. Someone had been watching her. She set up a camouflage so that the person who was watching her would think that she followed the car home every day so that they wouldn't disturb her. She took a taxi to the north of the city, which was very far from where she went to school. This was a more remote area in another district of the capital. Most of the people living here were ordinary people, and there were many migrant workers. There were also many old houses and apartments left behind. This area was actually the first to be developed, but it was very early. Most of the buildings were decades old. The streets were narrower than usual, but in the capital, it was bustling. There were many people. Xiao Jin walked through a vegetable market. In order to avoid being too eye-catching, she was much more low-key today. Her hair was tied up, making her look fresh and refreshing. She wore a pair of big student glasses. She looked like a pure and harmless, beautiful girl. She was still attractive and otherworldly, but she was also carrying a backpack. She looked like a middle school student, which made her look more low-key. She just looked fresh. She wouldn't attract attention if she appeared nearby. She came to a huge vegetable market. Amidst the hubbub of people, she bought a bag of apples from a fruit shop nearby and ate as she walked. Her calm gaze soon landed on a woman who was picking tomatoes in front of a vegetable stall. The woman was about 30 years old. Her hair was permed and only reached her shoulders. She wore glasses and no makeup. Her complexion looked a little bad. She was dressed in pajamas and came out to buy groceries. She was just an ordinary woman in the ordinary world. When she was picking tomatoes, even the owner of the vegetable stall recognized her. He smiled and said, "Su Rong, are you making tomato scrambled eggs for your husband again?" The woman named Su Rong raised her head and revealed a gentle smile. "Yes, he likes to eat these. This is the only dish I know how to make." The boss smiled and said, "I don't think your husband only likes this dish. It's because you know how to make this dish that he likes it. If you learn to make other dishes, maybe he will like it too." Su Rong couldn't help but smile. The happiness in her eyes made people feel very happy. Xiao Jin just stared at her quietly. Su Rong picked out the tomatoes. They were all big, round, and red, and looked moist. She also bought some other vegetables. When she carried them home, she was still humming a tune. It was obvious that she was very happy. On the way home, many people greeted her. It could be seen that this woman named Su Rong had a good relationship with the surrounding neighbors. Everyone who greeted her had a kind smile, and she responded very happily. She was very happy. She didn't need to express it. One could tell just by looking at her. Chapter 274. Xiao Jin followed behind her. She followed Su Rong to many places and finally stepped into an old apartment building. The apartment building was built decades ago. The property management was average, and anyone could enter. There were no elevators in the building. There were only a few floors, and they had to walk up. Perhaps she was too happy, but she didn't notice that there was a strange and beautiful girl behind her. The girl was so quiet that it was as if she didn't exist. However, when they were going upstairs, the girl noticed an advertisement outside the neighborhood. "Apartments are for sale in this building. Please consult XXXXX for details." She followed Su Rong upstairs. There were only the two of them in the corridor. Su Rong finally noticed that something was wrong. She turned around and saw Xiao Jin. She was surprised by the girl's fresh and beautiful appearance. However, she didn't remember anything about her. She hesitated. "Young lady, are you a new resident here?" Xiao Jin nodded. "I just moved in. Hello." Su Rong remembered that her neighbor upstairs was selling his house. Perhaps he had already sold it. She smiled. "Hello, I'm Su Rong." Xiao Jin replied, "I'm Xiao Jin." Su Rong didn't question Xiao Jin's refusal to call her auntie. She just smiled and said, "Xiao Jin. Good name." Xiao Jin stepped forward and said, "My parents aren't home yet. I don't have the keys to the new house. Can I sit in your house for a while?" This was abrupt enough for a stranger. Su Rong only hesitated for a moment before nodding. "Okay." She even took out a tomato from the bag and handed it to Xiao Jin. "Do you want a tomato?" Xiao Jin reached out and took it. She didn't refuse. She took the tomato and stepped into Su Rong's happy little home with her. The house wasn't big. It was about 100 square meters, and the decorations were very warm. It was very clean inside, unlike the old neighborhood outside. When they entered the house, they smelled the fragrance of food. It was very, very fragrant. It was a smell that could only be made in a warm home. After entering, they saw the living room and dining table. It was covered with a small floral cloth. It was very clean. Su Rong smelled the fragrance and said happily, "Hubby, we have a little guest." Someone came out of the kitchen. He was an average-looking man, about 1.7 meters tall, not much taller than Xiao Jin. His face was somewhat delicate, like a teacher, but his face was a little pale, and he didn't look well. With a shy smile on his face, he said, "Hello?" Xiao Jin said softly, "Hello?" Su Rong walked to his side, took his arm, and said happily, "This is the new resident who moved in upstairs. She's still studying. Her name is Xiao Jin. Her parents haven't come home yet, and she doesn't have the key, so she came to our house to wait for a while." The man looked at Su Rong gently and smiled. "Of course, my food is ready. You can have a meal here." "Is it done?" Su Rong exclaimed. "Ah, the tomatoes I bought are back too. Wait, I'll make tomato scrambled eggs for you." She turned around and said naturally, "Xiao Jin, you should have dinner too. We can wait for your parents to come back." For a stranger, the couple seemed to be overly enthusiastic, but they could be touched by the happy atmosphere. Xiao Jin blinked. For a moment, there was a trace of hesitation in her heart. Looking at Su Rong's enthusiastic face, Xiao Jin nodded slowly in the end. "Okay, it was just a meal." Chapter 275. Su Rong's husband was called Ming Chu. He was 31 years old and worked at a telecommunications company nearby. He was an ordinary employee who worked from 9 to 5. Su Rong was a primary school teacher and taught simple Chinese. Other than preparing for classes, she wasn't very busy. The two of them didn't have any children and lived in this small family. It was ordinary and warm. Their salary wasn't high, but they lived a happy and satisfied life. During dinner, Su Rong enthusiastically put food in Xiao Jin's bowl. From time to time, she would look at Ming Chu and smile. The two of them were like the happiest people in the world. Some public displays of affection would make you feel that it was hypocritical. Some public displays of affection didn't need to be shown, because people could feel their happiness and love at all times when they were together. It wasn't cloying, but it was happy enough. Obviously, Su Rong and Ming Chu were like that. After dinner, Xiao Jin wiped her mouth and thanked Su Rong and Ming Chu. Then, she said goodbye and left. Their neighbor upstairs had decided to sell the house and moved out long ago. She wouldn't be exposed. However, Xiao Jin didn't intend to continue with this lie. She returned home very late. Xiao Fei was shocked to see that Xiao Jin didn't come home very late. "Where did you go?" When she called, she only said that she was outside and didn't say where she was. Xiao Jin said, "I want to look for a house." "Xiao Fei," she stuttered, "you want to buy a house? You want to move out?" She raised her voice. "Xiao Jin, no, I want a house. Is Zhiming home?" Xiao Fei, she had a bad premonition. Mu Zhiming was obviously home. He even took the coffee cup downstairs and asked, "Where did you go?" Xiao Jin said directly, "Zhiming, I want to buy a house. Do you have 2 million yuan? I'll borrow it from you and return it to you." That house was sold for 2 million yuan. It was considered cheap in the imperial capital. The main thing was that it wasn't in the city center and was an old house. In a remote place, it couldn't be sold for a sky-high price. Mu Zhenming almost spat out the coffee in his mouth. "What kind of house do you want to buy for only 2 million? Just by hearing the word only, one could tell that a 2 million yuan house was nothing in his eyes. "It's a little far away. The housing there isn't very expensive." Xiao Jin said, "Something came up, so I need to borrow 2 million to buy a house." If she wanted to, she could get the money anytime, but for now, she might as well borrow it. Xiao Fei came forward and asked, "Where do you want to buy a house?" "Xiao Jin, Qingqing District." Mu Zhiming frowned. "Qingqing District is quite far away. Did you buy it so far away? The house might not have any investment value." Xiao Jin nodded. They wanted to ask Xiao Jin what he was going to do with the house, but Xiao Jin didn't say anything. In the end, Mu Zhiming still lent Xiao Jin 2 million. Xiao Fei wasn't worried that Xiao Jin would buy a house. She was worried that Xiao Jin would move out after buying the house. Xiao Jin wasn't going to move out. She just needed to do something. The house above Su Rong's house was sold for 2 million yuan. Xiao Jin bought the house the next day after she got the money. Now, She had a legitimate reason to go to Su Rong's house. Moreover, it was easy to get along with her. She didn't need to arouse suspicion. The house she bought had old furniture. She didn't plan to live in it, so she didn't care. Mu Zhenming went to check on the house and found that it was indeed very remote. There was nothing special about it. So, what was Qiao Jin's reason for buying it? Chapter 276. No one knew the reason for this. The next day, she chose not to go home and went straight to Su Rong's house. Compared to yesterday, when she went upstairs, she saw an unfamiliar woman in Su Rong's house. The woman was dressed fashionably and exquisitely. Compared to Su Rong, she was a completely different person. She was wearing sunglasses, and the jewelry on her wrists, neck, and ears were all branded. She stood in the house and looked around, frowning as if she was puzzled. Xiao Jin saw her when she passed by and called out, "Su Rong?" Su Rong turned her head and saw Xiao Jin. Xiao Jin? The fashionably dressed woman also turned her head and was puzzled when she saw Xiao Jin. Master, this is the daughter of the neighbor upstairs. Her name is Xiao Jin." Su Rong looked at her cautiously. The fashionably dressed woman looked at Xiao Jin and was surprised by her appearance. Then, she didn't pay much attention to her. Xiao Jin immediately knew who she was. She was Master Yao Zhu. She didn't expect her to come to Su Rong's house. She glanced at it and went upstairs. Master Yao Zhu's real name was Yuan Wan. She came to check on Su Rong's house because she wanted to know what went wrong during her divination. She saw that Su Rong and Ming Chu's lifelines were very strange, but she didn't see any problems in their house. She looked at Ming Chu a few more times and felt that it didn't make sense. Su Rong and Ming Chu were so loving. Even she, who had no lack of suitors, was envious of the atmosphere. What was the problem? All of a sudden, she thought of Qiao Jin. It was rare for such a beautiful girl to live in a place like this. However, this thought only flashed through her mind. Before she left, she raised her head and looked upstairs. The door was closed, and there was no sound of movement. The house wasn't very soundproof. When Xiao Jin went upstairs, it was very quiet. Because she was upstairs, Xiao Jin could clearly hear Su Rong and Ming Chu's conversation. "Ming Chu, who is it?" "Su Rong. She's a master I met online. Don't worry, she's just here to take a look." "Ming Chu, what can I see?" "Su Rong, didn't you always say that we can't be together forever? I'll find a master to take a look at it. Are you relieved now?" "Ming Chu, don't worry." His voice became softer and softer. Xiao Jin only listened for a while, then opened the door and went back to the Mu family. Hearing that she borrowed money to buy a house, Muzillian was very shocked. "Why did you buy a house in such a remote place?" The Mu couple had asked this question countless times. This time, Xiao Jin gave a simple explanation. "Because I want to buy it." Muzillian, "Awesome." Xiao Fei said, "You came back so late because you went there? Isn't it too far? It'll take you 2 hours to go back and forth by subway." Xiao Jin came back late at night. Xiao Fei was a bit worried. "If you want to go there and take a look, I'll ask the driver to pick you up every day." "Xiao Jin, no need. I just want to go there and take a look." The driver was too high profile. Muzillian couldn't help but ask, "I heard from Dad that it's just an ordinary community. The environment is very messy. What are you going to do there?" "Xiao Jin, I've been a god for too long. I'm going to be immortal." Muzillian, shameless. Chapter 277. Although Qiao Jin's reason was shameless, it was still a reason. She had always done things as she pleased, and the Mu family had learned a thing or two about it over the past month. That night, they discussed this matter behind Qiao Jin's back, even though Qiao Jin could hear them. Xiao Fei couldn't help but say, 2 million for such a remote place? That's a little willful. Mu Zhenming comforted him. "It's fine. It's just 2 million. As long as the child is happy." Although Qiao Jin was borrowing the money, he couldn't let Xiao Jin return it. Muzillian said, "Dad, this isn't your attitude when I ask you for pocket money." Mu Zhenming sneered. "Xiao Jin really bought a house with the money. When you asked me for money, you said that you were drinking in the bar when you went for tuition. Also, this is the first time your sister asked me for money in a long time." She said that she would return it if she borrowed it. She has never taken the initiative to ask for pocket money, but when you ask for money, you want to eat 3 meals a day. There were many similar incidents, and Mu Zhiming found Mu Qilian, this disappointing thing, to be an eyesore. Mu Zilian choked. Mu Xiangshan said leisurely, "Why humiliate yourself?" Mu Zilian was speechless. Was this family still okay? Speaking of which, after discussing Qiao Jin's intention to buy a house, Qiao Fei still couldn't figure it out. Qiao Fei could only say that she would go over the next day. But what could she see from it? When she went over, she bumped into Su Rong, who was returning home. Su Rong saw a woman in expensive clothes walking upstairs Qiao Jin's house. She instinctively asked, "Are you Qiao Jin's mother?" Qiao Fei was stunned for a moment. When she saw Su Rong, she nodded and said, "Yes." Su Rong immediately smiled and said, "Qiao Jin said that his parents bought a house here. I only saw you two days ago. Are you busy with work?" Qiao Fei, Yes, we're busy, so we don't come over often." It was a fact that Qiao Jin had bought a house, and Qiao Fei didn't say much about it. When she went out in the morning, she asked Qiao Jin for the key. When she entered the room, she did not see anything special. It was even dusty because no one had lived in it for too long. Qiao Fei frowned, but he couldn't see anything wrong with it. He even asked a cleaning lady to clean the house. In any case, Qiao Jin had to come over. This thick layer of dust was not good for the body. This child didn't even know how to get someone to clean up. She really didn't care about these things at all. She watched as the housekeeper cleaned the house and went out to get some new furniture for Qiao Jin. It was still a little troublesome to get the other large pieces of furniture. After a busy day, the house finally looked decent. He hoped that he could give Qiao Jin a surprise. But tonight, she planned to go back with Qiao Jin. She knew that Qiao Jin would come. After school, Qiao Jin came over as expected. She wasn't surprised to see Qiao Fei. When Qiao Fei asked for the key this morning, she knew that Qiao Fei would come. She raised her eyebrows slightly when she saw that the house had changed a lot. Qiao Fei said as if he was presenting a treasure, "Look, you didn't renovate the house properly after buying it. The location is a little remote, but it will look good after cleaning. Mom also changed some of the furniture for you. If you like it in the future, you can come and live here." However, Qiao Fei couldn't find anything good about the environment. The property management was not good, and the environment was really average. The house was surrounded by the market and other residential buildings, and the house was not soundproof. He really didn't know why his daughter bought this place. She had money to build as much as she wanted. Qiao Fei thought resentfully. Anyway, it was her father's house. Chapter 278. When they went downstairs, Qiao Fei and Qiao Jin saw Su Rong and Ming Chu coming out to buy groceries hand in hand. The couple looked so sweet. When they saw Qiao Jin, they took the initiative to greet him, especially Su Rong. "Qiao Jin, your mother is so beautiful. She's as beautiful as you." Qiao Fei was happy to be praised. When she saw Ming Chu smiling shyly at them, she asked, "Is this your husband?" Su Rong nodded. "His name is Ming Chu." Ming Chu nodded to them. "Nice to meet you." After chatting for a while, Ming Chu and Su Rong said goodbye to Qiao Jin and Su Rong as they were going to the supermarket. After they left, even Qiao Fei said, "They are so close. They look so happy." She was not envious, but sighed with emotion. Qiao Jin suddenly looked at Qiao Fei and smiled. "Look?" Qiao Fei was stunned. She didn't know what she meant. She just said, "Yes, they are happy." There are not many people who can see such a sweet couple. When they went out of the community, they bumped into Yuan Wan, who came to deal with the matter. Qiao Fei glanced at Yuan Wan and whispered to Qiao Jin, "I didn't expect there to be so many beautiful women living here." She only saw Yuan Wan, but she said there were many beautiful women living here. Qiao Jin smiled and didn't say anything. She went back with Qiao Fei. Qiao Fei realized that Qiao Jin didn't show much curiosity about the place along the way. She couldn't help but ask, "Why did you buy it there? I don't see anything special about it." "I have my reasons." Qiao Fei didn't know how to ask. Alas, his daughter's rebellious phase really hurt his money. When Yuan Wan knocked on the door, she found that Su Rong and Ming Chu weren't there. She was a little annoyed. She couldn't see anything wrong with Su Rong, but she was confident in her divination skills. She even asked a few people in the same profession to do the math. Basically, those with real skills all said that there was something wrong with Su Rong's lifeline, but they couldn't tell what the problem was. This was too inconceivable. Yuan Wan walked out after making a phone call. Yes, they're just an ordinary couple. There's nothing wrong with them at all. No, they don't have any special interactions. I've been watching them for 2 days. The couple is either at work or at home every day. That's why it's strange. No matter how I look at her lifeline, I feel that there's something wrong with it. Her husband. Sigh, maybe I'm wrong. They're a happy couple. If I come here often, I won't be able to find an excuse. When he returned home that night, Xiao Fei told Mu Jinming and the others what he had seen. She had said that there was nothing special about it. She still did not understand why Xiao Jin bought the house here. What they didn't know was that Xiao Jin was chatting with Song Yanqing upstairs. Song Yanqing took the initiative to reveal that he knew that Xiao Jin bought a house. Song Yanqing, I heard that you bought a house in Qingqing district? Jin Jinyo. Yes. It's little Jin Jin. You know? Song Yanqing. Azai will tell me about you. He didn't deny it directly. At least he clearly told Xiao Jin that he was paying attention to her. Xiao Jin didn't care. He continued to reply. I'm thinking about something. Song Yanqing. What's the matter? Xiao Jin hesitated and then told Song Yanqing his thoughts. It's little Jin Jinyo. Perhaps you've encountered a troublesome matter. Chapter 279. Troublesome? Song Yanqing found it interesting. How rare was it for Xiao Jin to find it troublesome? His eyes showed interest. Recently, when he chatted with Xiao Jin, his typing speed had increased a little. Song Yanqing, mind telling me? Maybe I can give you an idea. Powerful kid. I want to tell you, but I don't really understand what's going on. I just want to know if I should break this illusion. Song Yanqing, illusion? Powerful kid. There's not much time left. I'll tell you when the time comes. Song Yanqing expressed that he understood and didn't reply again. Xiao Jin didn't say it clearly, so he didn't know what was going on. But he could feel that she seemed to be conflicted. During this period of time, if something could make her feel conflicted, it must be very troublesome. Where did this kind of trouble come from? Song Yanqing found it interesting. Could it be related to the house she bought? He quickly thought of this and asked the heir to find out about the house. The exam was getting closer and closer, but she wasn't worried. She still went to the residential area in Qingqing district every day. If she didn't go home every day, Xiao Fei would have suspected that she really planned to live in Qingqing district. What kind of magic was there? Xiao Jin came every day to see Su Rong and Ming Chu. She wanted to see how happy they were every day. The people around them all had good comments about them. Their appearance wasn't considered ordinary in the big wide world, but it was rare to see a sweet couple. The blissful atmosphere they exuded was too rare in this impetuous era. A few days later, a policeman came to the door. That day, Xiao Jin felt something. When she came over after school, she opened the door and saw a male policeman in uniform knocking on the door downstairs. He was knocking on Su Rong's door. The door opened. It was Su Rong who opened the door. Xiao Jin couldn't see Su Rong's face, but he could hear Su Rong's surprised voice. Mr. Policeman? What's the matter? Are you Miss Su Rong? There was a hint of seriousness in the policeman's voice. Our police station notified you last month. Why did you? Before she could finish, Ming Chu's voice came from the other side of the door. Honey, what's wrong? Who is it? When Ming Chu walked to the door, the male police officer swallowed his words. He stared at Ming Chu with wide eyes. He looked at Su Rong and then back at Ming Chu, as if he was trying his best to swallow. After a while, he said in a trembling voice, Miss Su, this is Mr. Ming? Su Rong seemed a little confused. Yes, what's wrong? Ming Chu's voice was still as shy as before. Mr. Policeman, may I ask what happened? Xiao Jin heard the policeman's voice tremble. No, you're Mr. Ming Chu? Have you been at home for a month? Ming Chu replied gently, of course, I've always been with my wife. Is there a problem? No, everything's fine now. The policeman's voice trembled, but he didn't dare to speak. It could be said that he left in a fluster. A policeman wouldn't panic to such an extent. There must have been something shocking. When Xiao Jin saw the policeman leave, he followed him downstairs. When Su Rong and Ming Chu saw the policeman leave, they naturally closed the door. They didn't see Xiao Jin, who had chased after them. When the policeman came downstairs, he saw a police car parked downstairs. When he saw his colleague in the car, he sweated profusely. "I saw a ghost." Chapter 280. The colleague immediately said, "Don't talk nonsense. We are the police." The male policeman was flustered. Really, I saw Mingchu upstairs." Puffed. The other colleague almost choked on his saliva. "You saw Mingchu? How is that possible?" Before he could finish speaking, Xiao Jin ran down from upstairs and shouted, "Mr. Policeman?" The two policemen looked over and were surprised to see a beautiful girl like Xiao Jin. The policeman quickly calmed himself down, even though his back was drenched in cold sweat. Unexpectedly, Xiao Jin asked, "Mr. Policeman, why are you looking for Su Rong and Ming Chu?" At this moment, Yuan Wan also came over. She saw the policeman and Xiao Jin downstairs and walked over. She was about to go upstairs when she heard the policeman say, "Little girl, do you live here? Tell me, did you see Su Rong and Ming Chu together?" Hearing Su Rong and Ming Chu's names, Yuan Wan suddenly stood on the spot. She looked over with a little surprise. Xiao Jin answered straightforwardly, "Yes, I just moved here not long ago, but Su Rong and Ming Chu are both good people. They are very happy." The two policemen looked at each other and saw the disbelief in each other's eyes. The policeman in the car also came down and looked at Xiao Jin seriously. He asked again, "Are you sure?" Xiao Jin nodded and looked a little confused. "Of course, what's the matter? Everyone in the neighborhood knows about it." The policeman. The two policemen's faces turned pale in broad daylight. The one who asked the question swallowed. "Maybe they are twins? Or maybe you saw wrongly." The other one directly denied it. "How is that possible? The DNA test has been done. Besides, how could I see wrongly? Ming Chu and Su Rong are indeed husband and wife." Hearing this, Yuan Wan realized that something was wrong. She quickly came forward and asked, "Hello, Mr. Policeman. I would like to ask what happened to Su Rong and Ming Chu. I'm their friend. Is there anything wrong?" The policeman glanced at Xiao Jin and Yuan Wan and realized that there was something fishy about this matter. They couldn't let the two innocent people know about it, so they immediately said, "No, we just came to inquire about some trivial matters." Although the two of them said that, they quickly drove back to the police station. This matter was no small matter. In fact, it had become somewhat strange. Yuan Wan was a little puzzled when she saw the police drive away. When she saw that Xiao Jin was also standing there, she smiled and looked at Xiao Jin. "Beautiful lady, can you tell me why the police are looking for Mr. Ming Chu and Miss Su Rong?" Xiao Jin shook his head blankly. "I don't know." Yuan Wan suddenly felt helpless. However, she had already begun to suspect that the police wouldn't come looking for Ming Chu and Su Rong for no reason. Could it be that something had happened to them? Yuan Wan suddenly realized that perhaps there was a breakthrough in the area that she had always felt was not right. So what exactly happened that made the police come looking for Su Rong and Ming Chu? Usually, this kind of thing only happened when someone committed a crime. Thinking of this, Yuan Wan immediately ran upstairs. Xiao Jin stood in the same place. He lowered his head and looked at his fingertips. She seemed to be thinking about something for a long time. Then, she sighed silently. There wasn't much time left. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.